Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you just heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Is Brooklyn in the house without a doubt?
And if you didn't know by that stinger, you can also tell by the lovely shirt that he's wearing. There you go, loud and proud, folks. You gotta love it. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your own whatever podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on either youtube.com/theclicknation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. And shout out to anybody who happens to come through on either one of those said channels. But for right now, we are going to get into a recap on Loki episode 2, which just came out the day before this recording.
Exactly. So, as always, the big time spoiler alert is in effect for episode 2 of Loki. So in 3, 2, 1, you may want to fast forward if you still have not watched episode 2 or even episode 1 of Loki.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you definitely haven't watched episode 1, you definitely probably don't want to be here for this. Or 2. So first we start off with first of all, shout out to Bonnie Tyler, who is probably eating quite lovely these days because of a couple of things. One of which happens to be her song "I Need a Hero" happening to show up, but not one, but 2 places this week, actually.
I thought it was 3.
Wait, was it 3?
Or maybe it wasn't just this week, because I think in the previous week it showed up in the Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, you're right. You are right.
So I wasn't sure if you were wrong, because I think you had a good point when you said in the last week.
Right.
But if we count a little further, maybe, then it's actually 3.
It is actually 3, yeah, because I totally forgot about the Masters of the Universe one. Yes, because the song shows up in, as Agent 70 said, in the Masters of the Universe trailer. It also shows up in the trailer to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game, which was just shown off this week.
Right.
And also here in the beginning of Loki episode 2, which by the way is named the variant. If anybody was kind of curious about the titling of the episode. So yeah, it starts off with actually it starts off at a Ren Fair in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in the year 1985, where some TVA agents kind of show up. Because at first you're thinking, okay, did they actually show up in the Renaissance? And no, kind of find out really quickly that's not the case. And they meet up with some ladies like, hey, you're not dressed right. Some of us needs this.
I thought that was funny because, what was it, 1980? It was said 1985.
Right.
Talk about, I don't know, maybe that was like the early heyday of like Ren Fair stuff, or maybe it's like an early adapter type of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In the 80s, in like the mid 80s, I don't know if I was still pretty young at that point, so I don't think I had too much experience with seeing like Ren Fair style commercials,
right.
So
right.
I don't know about you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was old enough to have probably have seen them, but I don't recall seeing too much about Ren fairs at the time. So,
Right.
but that being the case, like we said, it's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which I believe, from what I understand, is the birthplace of Mark Grunwald.
Really?
I believe that's what something I said when I read when I was reading through some stuff. So clearly there was a point there. But anyway, so the TV is kind of run around. They go into this tent. One the team leader, who is the team commander, who is called C20, who I guess is some actress named Sasha Lane. Because I was kind of wondering who she was, since they made a point of one, giving her FaceTime. And I was thinking she might have been a wrestler, but apparently that's not the case because of her name. But regardless, she gets possessed, which is kind of curious, and you need to keep that with you for a little bit. But she gets possessed and starts taking out the rest of the team, and then gets dragged away by the variant Loki that we know that is going to be chased, that we're being chased. And then kind of goes through the time door, which I just thought about this, and I don't know why I didn't bring it up the last time, but those time doors look like the same time doors from Quantum Leap, if you remember that show.
It's been a while since I've seen that, so I don't recall.
Yeah, they're kind of the same shape. They're like a different colors, but they're kind of the same shape, and they kind of come, disappear and come in at the same way. So I'm surprised no one has made that thought up. Anyway, so after that, I think we get to the credit thing, and then it goes back to the TVA where Loki's kind of sitting at a desk, and Miss I wouldn't call her Miss Marvel, and that is not right at all. Miss Minutes is quizzing Loki on some stuff, just kind of as a recap to him and the audience at the same time about what it means to go over the red line, since they did bring it up. Because I don't remember if they actually said specifically. I know they mentioned it as like, hey, this is the thing we don't want to do, but I don't think they've actually explained.
Right. I think this is the first time they expand upon it. So I think
Right.
that's a good point.
Right. So, Loki kind of sitting there bored and reading some jet ski magazine, which is going to come up later. And he answers the question in a Loki-esque fashion, and then starts swatting at Miss Minutes, which, by the way, bad Loki. Leave Tarstrong alone. So yeah. So, but she gets away from that, and then Mobius comes in, and then happens to mention, like, hey, is that my jet ski book? Put that down. We got to go. And then they go to do some kind of, I guess, to do the briefing before they go to Oshkosh themselves to go check out what happened to the other team. Oh yeah, that's right. Also, Mobius gives Loki a jacket to put on, which we're going to find out in the next scene that we're talking about now. It says variant on the back, but as B-15 says, to make sure no one mistakes you for to make sure everyone knows who you are, a cosmic mistake, as she says, as those two bicker. But Mobius goes on to explain what they're going to be doing. Then Loki kind of goes into an explanation about the difference between illusion casting and duplicate casting. Which I suppose is going to come into play at some point. We don't know, but they made sure to kind of make that be known. So then they go back to the Ren Fair, and they go check out the tent. And this is where Loki starts doing like some criminals. Actually, like Loki starts doing some Criminal Minds-esque explanation. As everyone else tries to sweep the place, and they don't seem to come across anything. But it comes to find out he's just stalling for time. And it's like there's basically no clues to what's going on, and Loki's kind of just stalling the time so he can kind of bargain but Mobius kind of sees through it, and they're like, all right, let's wrap it up. Let's get out of here. So then I think it cuts to yes, it cuts to a meeting with Mobius and Ravonna Renslayer, which is a dope name actually. In her office, Ravonna gives Mobius a glass of we assume is alcohol, to which he prompts her to put on the desk where there was a bunch of rings on it, which she promptly, kind of chastises him from doing, because apparently he has left many rings on the good table.
Right.
In previous meetings. And I don't know if you had this when you were growing up, but she gave him a coaster, a familiar to me looking coaster, because I've grown up with those like little hexagonal coasters.
Oh, I mean, I've had all sorts of different coasters throughout the years, so I just saw it as a coaster. I didn't recognize it. I guess you had something similar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think a lot of people had that particular type of coaster back in the day. So it was kind of funny to see that there, and I think people still actually use those kind of coasters. Actually, I know somebody. I think there was a Easter egg video that I watched. Somebody made out the fact that it was a hexagon because of one division.
Okay. I was about to say, I'm like, my coasters are glass now.
Nice.
This is a Infinity War coaster. It's dirty. I need to wash this.
Right. Oh, that's cute. I like that. But yeah, no, but these are like wooden corkboard ones that I know there are people that are probably still using. But regardless, it was the kind of thing I kind of touched on. I was like, oh yeah, I had those. But anyway, so they're talking about Loki, of course, and the fact that the last mission was botched, and possibly about him trying to basically saying, hey, this is Loki's last chance, or it's because the timekeepers are not happy, and they are looking at this closely. And also a little bit of more back and forth between Mobius and her about, as Mobius says, another analyst that she's keeping on the side, because she keeps mentioning about how much the timekeepers are looking into this case, or looking closely into this case, which basically says that, hey, she's been talking to them, which no one's actually ever seen them in the course of the show, but it's only been 2 episodes, and we now know that she's the only one that's so far that's talked to him, because even Mobius says, like, I don't know, I've never talked to him. So she has Mobius sign off with a pen that they took great care to focus in on it, which says Franklin D. Roosevelt on it.
Oh, I didn't actually notice that. I mean, I saw that they focused in on it. I kind of flashed by it.
Well, yeah. So when it first went by, I was like, wait a minute, and then I kind of backed it up and like see what was on it, and then it says Franklin Roosevelt. And I think those Easter egg videos saying that they could very well be an offshoot of that one that Tony gave Steve to sign with during but I don't know. Regardless, so they talk. Loki gets one more chance. Mobius leaves the meeting. And Loki's right outside. I mean, Mobius leaves the meeting. He's right outside the door, and they talk. And then Mobius puts Loki to work on doing some research on the variant, since he's been tasked to help them catch him, and of course Loki's being Loki about this, and he doesn't necessarily want to do it. So he goes to I think this is when he goes to the library, and tries to get information on the TVA and the start and the beginning of it, which the librarian person was like, here's the files you can get, and it's pretty much the ones having to do with the case.
It's his file,
right? Exactly, but also had to do with the case.
That's all. Exactly. That's the only file he's cleared to see.
Right, which was kind of funny because after all that, he was like, all right, cool, and then she just gives him his file. But he does.
It's it's in his file that he gets a little bit of inspiration. It's
Exactly.
after reviewing his file that he gets a little bit of inspiration as to what as to where this variant that they're chasing might be hiding.
Mhm.
And it comes after reading about the Ragnarok event, which destroyed Asgard, in what would have been his future.
Right. Which did you peep that, by the way? Before you go on, did you look at that sheet? Like, did you look closely at that sheet?
Which sheet?
The sheet that he looked at, that was referenced, that you just referenced, the Ragnarok sheet.
All I saw was his name.
Oh, okay. So I went back. Well, so it basically has, when I looked at it, because I paused it and looked at it, it had the number of people killed during that, and it had the number, like it basically had, it's a Class 8 event, and this and other, and then the number of people killed. I'm assuming
it was like 9,000 something.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
So I think it was the number of people killed, and they call Asgard a planet, which I thought was kind of weird. So, but I don't know.
It is a world. I don't know. I've always assumed it was like a planetoid, but in any event,
right.
It's their way of categorizing it. So
right, but I was just thinking like it's just a realm that just so happened to be like a full, I never thought of it as like, hey, it could be a planetoid body. Or it's just a stretched out, realm with a bunch of lands in it, and
right. Well, we're not getting into flat Earth theory, flat Asgard theories here, folks. But getting back to the show. So it's from this that Loki gets this theory that the variant is hiding. And at first, I thought it was a whole bunch of cockamamie PS.
Mm-hmm.
But then, once he started to explain, I was like, you know what? That actually makes a little sense. And I've heard a couple of reviews discuss this afterwards in the aftermath. And, they all sort of had similar feelings. Like, you know what? It does make sense, but it first came off as kind of a little crazy.
Right.
And, the theory goes is that the variant is hiding at the moments just before cataclysmic events because any changes they might make to the timeline there won't register because the destruction is immediately wiping out anything that they might change.
Right.
So, they actually run a test of this theory by taking a trip to pre-volcano eruption Pompeii, which is just sad.
Which I believe also they did a similar thing in like Doctor Who. But anyway, yeah.
Anything with time travel shenanigans, right?
Yep.
So, it was the only reason why I say it's sad is because literally Loki jumps up on this,
cart.
Push cart, pull cart or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and starts yelling, "You're all about to die" in Latin.
Yep. To which, exactly, because he pretty much goes on this like, "Hey, go." He lets the goats free. He tells everybody he's gonna die, and nothing even matters. He starts throwing cabbages or whatever other fruit or whatever. Nothing even matters. This, that, another. And the people are looking at him like he's crazy, and they don't, apparently they don't even believe him because they're just still kind of like they're looking kind of strange, but still go about his business until the next moment.
Exactly. And these what's unfortunate is that these folks are completely ignoring the rumbling that we all hear coming from the nearby volcano.
Yep.
So they're just ignoring it. So what are you gonna do? So no, that test being kind of a proof of concept. They use another clue. The pack of gum, the variant left behind in 1549 France. This is from episode 1. As I said earlier, seriously, if you didn't watch episode 1, there's no point in watching episode 2. This is all spoilers. So this pack of gum was identified as being a brand sold in mid-21st century America. So that's still in our future. And come up with a potential apocalypse event that they can go to, which is a hurricane that's set to destroy a Walmart-esque superstore in Haver Hills, Alabama, circa 2050. So it's called Rock's Cart.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Roxxon is still a part of the MCU, and Roxxon has been utilized in branches of the MCU, up to and including Runaways. So it's no surprise that Roxxon would have its hands in the big box store business and big box superstore business, and this store is called Rox Cart.
Right.
And that is when a strike team from TVA with Loki and Mobius tagging along head off to 2050 Alabama to this Rox Cart.
It's kind of bummed it wasn't Broxton again, but that's fine. So yeah, so they go into the superstore, and it gets split into teams, and Hunter B-15 was like, nope, Loki comes with me. This is not up for debate. And Loki's like, all right, cool. I'll go with her. I'll go with her, and just to try to earn the trust. So Mobius goes one way with the team. B-15 goes another way with Loki. And then they go search the store. They're also being seen by the variant through, which you would think they would have known, hey, there's cameras in a store. Like, I guess this is TVA, and maybe they don't know the concepts of stores like that. Which you would have think they would have, but dealing with the past, you would think they would have known, like, hey, there might be cameras or something. Maybe we shouldn't just roll up in here. Oh, and I forgot before that, Loki does some magic on his clothes to dry them off because they just came out of a storm. Because the storms that are closing in on that section of Alabama, which is the catastrophic event. But anyway, they go off their separate ways. B-15 and Loki.
I always forget that Alabama is so close to the Gulf Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I just do. Even though I know that Bubba and his family live near Mobile and they operate a shrimp boat at the southern part of Alabama.
It always
But
comes
I
back
always
to the
forget
shrimp
that
boat.
they are right in the hurricane. They're right in hurricane country.
Right. So yeah, it's not, like I said, it always comes back to the shrimp boat. But so yeah, as this article says, it's time for a quick Wunmi Masako appreciation moment, and I agree. But anyway, besides that, the variant takes over. Well, yeah, they come across a person, and B-15 is like, could that be him? And Loki's like, yeah, could be. For some strange reason, B-15 decides to get run up on them, and only to get possessed. Which also, like I said, again, possession comes back into play here, for a reason. And then Wunmi Masako pretty much starts talking like her, I guess, a version of Loki, or the version of Loki that the variant's supposed to be portraying. So Loki and the variant through B-15 are finally meeting each other. And then they talk for a little bit. But also Mobius and the other team finds C-20, which was the commander that was captured earlier in the program. And she's kind of, mumbling to herself, talking about it's all real, it's real, real, basically. So is it to say that something happened to her, or I don't know? I'm not sure how to play that off, because it's like, I don't know if it's like what she's led to believe is not real. Well, like, we don't know what that whole thing is about, regardless. I'm not even gonna get into it, but she starts to mumble to herself about how it's all real, it's real, it's real. I guess we'll find out at some point, what that's about. I think you kind of get an idea of what it could be about, given the nature of the TVA and everything, but you don't necessarily know. So cuts back to Loki and the variant talking through B-15. And I think this is when no. So the variant kind of goes through a couple of other people, take possession of a couple of other, and every time they possess a person, the other person falls out, basically.
Right.
So yeah, so Loki and the variant are pretty much talking this whole time, and including one time where Loki gets the fool beat out of him by this trucker looking dude. Um, until until she decides to drop the possession and then come reveal herself. And I say her because we come to find out that once the variant comes out of the shadows and lifts her cloak, it is definitely a female Loki, like everyone says. However, not a brunette. It's a blonde. So I'm thinking Enchantress.
Well, that was my first thought. So, especially when the line that she spouts is, "This is not about you."
Exactly.
And I was taken aback by that. It's like, oh, okay, so this is another character.
Mm-hmm.
And not thinking that this is I mean, it's funny that to think that maybe in a variant timeline that this variant Loki turns into the Enchantress at some point. Who knows?
I feel like there was actually something in the comic that happened though.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm probably the closest thing to a Thor expert we have on the panel, but I can't say I know everything about it, so I can't say for sure. That's an excellent, that's an excellent thought. It's a good hypothesis, whether or not, we actually have pre-existing story on that. I don't know.
So also I think I know, and again I'm gonna really quick like cut to an Easter egg video that basically says that I think one of the like one of the credits for whatever other language calls her Sophie.
Right, I did see an article
Sylvie.
about that.
Right,
Sylvie,
yes.
which apparently might have been a reference to something else.
Which was a reference to I believe an Enchantress alias. From what I'm to be led to be understood, and of course, yeah, there are definitely articles about that right now because of spoilers. So anyway, so whether that being the case, and like I immediately was like, okay, that's got to be an Enchantress Loki. And like I can't remember whatever actual comic book story that was, even if it was, or maybe I'm just tripping. But I feel like there actually was a comic version of Enchantress Loki that popped up somewhere. But regardless, cut to the fact that we also see during this time whether talking some of the reset charges, and we wonder why they're kind of being placed all over the place. And it was after she gets away at this moment where I think she had already activated it at this time. I think she had already before she revealed herself, she might have already activated it, and it was counting down to activate all of these charges, which shortly after this they all go off and they all disappear into the separate time doors as she disappears into a time door herself. And the last thing we see is people at the TVA scrambling because we see a whole bunch of divergent branches going towards the red line, presumably from where all of these charges went to. And there is also lists of where they went to during the TVA. Some places we know, well, actually, all of the places we know of in the MCU, from what I saw upon looking into it. And the TVA scrambling, Ravonna starts scrambling. She grabs a katana or I can't remember what the small that's not a kunai, but regardless, she grabs a weapon.
It was a baton.
It looked like like one of those one of those shorter swords, like almost like a short katana. I can't remember what they're called, but I'm not sure. It could very well be a katana. Huh?
It's a wakizashi.
Might be.
That's short.
Yeah.
The short katana sword, like the twin. Yeah. The shorter twin.
Might be. Yeah. But I'm not sure though. Like I said, you could very well be right, but because she grabbed it off because it was on the stand, like it was like they kind of have one of those on. So that's why I was thinking it might have been one of those and not a baton. But regardless, she starts to scramble and everybody else is scrambling. And then like the variant Loki goes through the time door. Mobius and B-15, who finally wakes up, they catch up with Loki, who also goes through the same time door. And then the episode ends. but as it closes.
Right.
So, but yeah, that I don't know. I know I've noticed that there are people who are kind of not on board with Loki because I guess it's because there's not a lot of action to it.
It's a different type of show.
Exactly. I'm saying.
I mean, just given the nature of the character,
right?
It's going to lend itself more towards a WandaVision type pacing, where there's going to be a lot more character-driven, story-driven storytelling. And we're not going to see, like the shoot 'em ups and the big action sequences yet. We're bound to see one or two, but over the course of the 6 episodes, that may not happen very often.
Right. So, but yeah. Oh, there was a part that I missed out on. I totally forgot about because there was that whole line of conversation about the jet ski thing and there was a whole existential a conversation that was in the cafeteria. Actually, there was a couple of conversations in the cafeteria and we also see Pillboy in there as Loki's trying to explain his theory to Mobius as he's trying to eat lunch. Which actually that was a pretty funny scene because Mobius was like, "No, give me my lunch back. Come on."
Yeah.
And he's just messing up dude's salad or whatever the heck it was as he's
Pillboy.
Yeah, like I said, I've yeah, we already talked about it. We got to go to it, but basically, that is pretty much that, and we do definitely, like I said, I've talked about a couple of Easter eggs that we have seen in this episode. The one that we don't necessarily talk about or that we hadn't mentioned or the actual places.
Right. So this article mentions one of the Easter eggs that you brought up, which is the Franklin D. Roosevelt, but it says Franklin D. Roosevelt High School pen.
Right.
So
yeah, that's what it says on the pen.
It's
yeah.
not exactly. It's not the pens that FDR used to sign the Lend-Lease Act that Tony was talking about. Steve Rogers using to sign the Superhero Registration Act or the whatchamacallit, the Sokovia Accords.
Right, but it could be a callback to that in a way, so we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was thinking, wait, is there a Franklin D. Roosevelt High School that we've come across in the MCU?
I'm sure there's an FDR high school somewhere.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but that we've come across in the MCU. So, and I couldn't think of one, so it was like whatever. Because that was the first thing I went to when I saw that pen. I was like, wait, but then like I saw where they were talking about the pens from the thing, so like it could be something like that. Also,
there's a great reference here. I laughed when they had this exchange about Loki saying, "I would never stab someone in the back." I laughed out loud at that.
Right. And it's like you stabbed like 50 people, and like, well, I wouldn't do it again. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But yeah, that whole exchange was actually pretty cute. So let me see, what else was there? Oh yeah, so what else was I going to do? Like I said, that whole conversation with the jet skis, which part of me had me thinking, like right before that part was like, I wonder if Loki is going to have himself reset at the end of this, like just willingly have himself reset at the end of this. Just kind of keep things back in order, because we already know that some of this feels like it's setting up for a Doctor Strange movie, because with the multiverses and all that kind of good mess. But I'm kind of wondering to just kind of keep everything straight if that's what's going to happen at the end of this. I know somebody was like, yeah, this is going to end with Owen Wilson, with Mobius and Loki on a jet ski. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. But they did potentially bring that up for some strange reason, so we'll probably see it again. I don't know. Outside of that, let me see if I can I can't find it, but there is worth noting that the places that come up that get bombed, that branch off, are, like I said, places that we know of in the MCU. Vormir, Asgard, there's Rome, Italy here. What's that? Thornton, USA? I'm not sure what it is.
Where are you getting this? Is this from another article that has like a diagram of the
Well, I'm looking at the
time?
CNET. Yeah, I'm looking at a CNET article which has a screen cap of one of the screens.
Okay. Take a look at
And it
that.
has the event and the date and the time and the location on it, and but it was more than what this one just says, and I can't remember the next also. But basically, a bunch of places in the MCU kind of come up on this thing, so it means something. We'll see. This is only the second episode, so we will see.
Oh, I see. I see the image.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, it's more than what that's showing, because there's like, if you go back and look at it on the if you go back, you happen to go back and watch it again, it floats to a bunch of places.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what comes out of that next episode. I don't know if there's anything else to say honestly about that. But
Wow. That's not a bad, that's not the worst, imagine if this is the catalyst for, I mean, we already figured this was a catalyst for Doctor Strange
exactly
in the Multiverse of Madness, the same way as Wanda's chaos magic emergence, also being like a catalyst for that as well.
Right.
But imagine if you absolutely had to have watched Loki to figure out how we got to Doctor Strange.
Right.
Like for those people, and this is this is for those folks who are not into jumping on Loki because they've heard that there's not much action in it.
Right.
It's like, because it's part of the story, and the story is everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, and like I was trying to say, it's like, yeah, Loki's not necessarily an action hero. Like, so that's like trying to make that to be that is kind of silly. Also, I don't know, I had this moment like this between this episode and last episode. It was like I felt like less is more with Loki, because every time we've seen him prior to this, he hasn't really said a whole lot. Like, he'll say a line or two here and there, but like talking
He's
as much as he has during this episode, during these shows, or like, that's weird.
I was gonna say, to this point, he's kind of the audience avatar, because he's learning along with us about the TVA.
Right.
So, he's our point of view character, and we're just along for the ride as, Owen Wilson and Gugu Mbatha-Raw and what's the actress's name?
Women Masako.
Yes.
Women Masako. Excuse me. Yeah. Mm. Yes.
Right. As they explain where we are.
Right.
And what's going on. So now Loki's a little bit more in his element, because he's gotten some time to figure out one me Mosaku. I was about to say, because hearing Roddykat say it makes her sound Japanese, but one me Mosaku. But she could be. We don't know. But in any event,
she's Nigerian. I do know that. So
what's that?
She's Nigerian.
Gotcha. But now that he's, like I said, now that he's in his element, now that he is semi-informed and has the formulation of a motivation and a plan, now it's time for Loki to really step out and try to exert himself, like you said earlier, stalling for time and trying to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
And Mobius sees right through it, at least at that point.
Right.
But unfortunately, an opening is created because of the variant. It's nothing that Mobius, short of literally handcuffing himself, which is probably what his plan was, essentially, short of handcuffing himself to Loki, would have prevented.
Right.
Nothing else would have prevented what happened. That's the kicker, is that Loki, essentially was playing by the rules that Mobius put in place, and were it not for, certain things happening that Mobius just couldn't have dealt with, that, in any way to keep Loki in place. Like I said, the variant opened up the door for him. It gave him a chance, and he took it. Literally opened the door for him.
Yes, exactly. There you go. So yeah. So Which also, I guess, and by nature of seeing the trailers for this show going into it, I think we can reasonably now assume that that image of what people thought was Black Widow is pretty much just Lady Loki. Because I think there was because we saw an image of Lady Loki possibly on Boromir or something. We don't know. We still don't know that part of it.
Gotcha.
Sitting there, and people thought because of the lighting, it was, and actually, I kind of also did thought at the time it was Black Widow, but seemed like that might not be the case. And I guess that might be another thing we'll find out next episode. There was something else I was gonna say, but I think we'll probably move on because I totally don't remember. I know there is some, actually, if you want to, we can kind of get ahead of the news a little bit and talk about some of the stuff that's related.
Sure.
In fact, yeah, let me go ahead and do that right now. So
scrolling.
Oh, nice. See, sorry about that, folks. We just got a ping that'll come up for later in the show. But yeah, so as I go over here to the news, Bink. So first off, Loki writer comments on a possible Secret Wars connection. Loki head writer Michael Waldron's commented on the possibility that the Disney Plus series will feature a connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe adaptation of Secret Wars, which, given how this episode played itself out, I wouldn't be surprised. Or at the very least, that What If show that we know they're doing.
Right.
So it says, we'll see, Waldron told Murphy's Multiverse. You probably know, as well as I do, not everything is just in there. If the purpose of that whole was to just indoctrinate the audience and everything. That's how the sentence went. Yeah, we'll see how this plays out in the MCU moving forward. So I guess that is, as being asked, is whether that was actually the case or not. Next up, apparently, Loki will answer your questions about in-game's time travel rules. So I'm going to assume the same interview, because you know how news articles love breaking stuff out. But anyway, Loki writer Michael Waldron again revealed that, let's see, it says, it's like in-game laid the foundation of what time travel is in the MCU, Waldron told Collider, it's a different interview, when asked about the new Marvel series, how the Marvel series will tackle time travel rules. He added, it was our job to build that out further and to identify. All right, how does this work? How does it look? Is time travel magic? Is it scientific? Is it engineered? Is it cast? So, actually, boom, there we go. He also added that it was vital for the Loki writing team to both ask and define time travel questions as they wrote each episode, stating, I think what's fun about the TVA is that it's something remarkable, like time travel, and really packages it in a very soulless sort of bureaucratic way. And that's what's exciting to me as a writer, was to take something so magical and just make it utterly soulless. So that is that. And then the last one we will talk about on that one, because the rest of that, the one after that, is about something else. Loki sends a coded message via new Marvel character Miss Minutes' Twitter, and this is apparently from an article from the beginning of this month, and which basically says that there was a Twitter account, a Miss Minutes TVA Twitter account, that looked like it on June 1st put out a message in, I'm going to say Norse. Yeah, in Norse runes, according to this. And of course, people took to the internet and tried to decrypt it, and they seem to possibly have what the message was saying. And if this is right, it says, once I escaped this hell prison they called the TVA, I swear I'm going to burn everything to the ground. Which actually,
interesting.
Yeah, so and we don't know whether this Miss Minutes account is an official account, but it is being followed by the showrunners.
Oh, that's a little bit of a hint right there.
Exactly. So yeah, it says it's being followed by Michael Waldron and the show writer Eric Martin. So
interesting.
So yeah, and that was from the beginning of the month. I don't know if that account has done anything else since then. Actually, we can find that out real quick. How about that?
Exactly. I was about to say, I'm like, yeah, let's just check.
I'm
curious.
Oh wait, there we go. There we go. So they're just let's see. Yeah, they've actually been there. It's been busy. Obviously retweeting stuff from the Loki official Loki account, but also saying some stuff in between that and yeah. So yeah, Tara Strong got a retweet off of it, and they have definitely been saying some things. And yeah, it looks like it's playing off in a Miss Minutes fashion, I guess. If you watch how they do that on the show. So there you go. So that is something actually. I did not know anything about that account until I saw this article.
I didn't know about it until now, so right. I'm about to click follow. It does itself the TVA official mascot.
Yeah, just in case to see if there's anything else that might, might pop up on that account. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So in closing, the one thing I was kind of wondering about when the theories about where Lady Loki is hiding out and their motivations, I was kind of wondering if are they trying to bring back Asgard, which obviously we don't know they were sealing the charges so they could reset the time to bring back Asgard for something, because that sounds like a very comic book as plot to do for something like this,
right?
It's because it was a very I lost Asgard, so I want to bring it back, and XYZ. We'll see whether that has anything to do with anything, or that's just me speculating. Me speculating. But that is the recap for Loki episode 2. Obviously, we have another one next Wednesday that is coming up, and I am actually looking forward to it. That being the case, we can go on to talk about some comic books.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm looking forward to it too. I definitely appreciate the effort that they're putting into crafting a really, I think, far-reaching story now. Mm-hmm. Especially seeing those reset bombs affecting the timeline like that.
Yes.
Roddykat has an interesting idea as to how they might use those. And as I was saying earlier, I see all of this being the foundation for the Doctor Strange movie and a lot of stuff going forward. Mm-hmm. Some of the articles that we were looking at that were recapping episode 2 were discussed in the article, in the respective articles, the idea of these branches being possibilities for the What If series, as well as other timelines, just as or as the possibility for being the basis of other stories that, like Roddykat mentioned, right. Is this how we get Asgard back? Because let's put it this way, Ragnarok isn't the end. Right. It's a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
If you are familiar with how the Norse myth of Ragnarok has been interpreted in Marvel Comics, it's interpreted as a cycle, and the Asgardians eventually return. Right. Asgard itself eventually returns, only for the Ragnarok cycle to eventually come to pass many, many years or decades or eons or centuries later. So it's not a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise if Asgard found its way back into the MCU, only to eventually be destroyed again. So right. It's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
Mm-hmm. And also one other thing, that's what I was going to say earlier. So one other theory that I kind of had, I know other no, other people did. And I can't remember if we talked about it last episode. In that, I kind of wonder if it's the Council of Kings that are pretty much passing themselves off as the timekeepers. Like, I kind of wonder if that's the case. There's potentially some hints for that, and obviously since Ravonna is involved and she's the one that's talking to him, also that's kind of a thing. That's kind of,
right.
a big enough thing to kind of point to. So, but
it's a
we'll
possibility.
See. Yeah, but we will see. That being said, like I said, let's go on into and talk about some comic books. And in lieu of the problems that we've been having the last couple of weeks, I will not be flashing the covers. Just in case. By the way, update your OBSs, folks. Just do it again. There's another one if you hadn't seen it. Because that was the problem. And the first book we are going to be talking about is Planet Size X-Men #1.
And if you haven't been in the loop in the X-Men corner of the Marvel Universe, Jerry Duggan is taking a lot more of a central role in the X books. So Planet Size X-Men #1 is written by Jerry Duggan. Jonathan Hickman is still the head of X, quote unquote. He's still the head of the X corner of the universe, but Jerry Duggan is going to be taking over the main X-Men book, and in this case has written the Planet Size. Roddykat and I were just discussing this, whether or not we would call it by accident Planet Sized, because technically that's the proper grammatical way of describing this, but I think of it as a play on Giant Size, and that's probably what they're going for, as in Giant Size X-Men #1. So this is Planet Size X-Men #1.
Correct.
As I said, it is written by Jerry Duggan, with art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Gracia, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles, as I fix a typo in my notes. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Big time spoiler alert for anyone who is behind on the Hellfire Gala stuff. This is stuff that was hinted at going all the way back to the Marauders issue that started the Hellfire Gala, because remember, all of these Hellfire Gala issues across the X line of the books essentially describe the events of a single day, much like the TV show 24, and it gives you timestamps as to when these particular events that the books are chronicling actually happened during the course of this one night of the Hellfire Gala. So it's hinted at in the first issue of the Hellfire Gala crossover, that being the Marauders issue, and in the last issue of Jonathan Hickman's volume of X-Men #21, which came out last week, was also hinted at something was happening where several of the more powerful X-Men were whisked away from the gala for something. And we find out in Planet Size X-Men #1 where they were going and what they were doing, and possibly what Captain America was commenting on at the end of Marauders, saying, they might have created one solution, but maybe made a bunch of other problems with it.
Right. I think, I feel like this is definitely, especially, like you said, the fireworks and what we saw at the end of X-Men 21?
21.
Yeah. What we saw, right. What we saw then, and then what we saw in, was it Marauders, that everybody was just kind of leaving in a huff and it was like, we needed to breathe. So I feel like this is definitely what they were talking about.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, it's safe to, no one likes to assume, knock on wood, but I think it's safe to go there with this and move forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, spoiler alert. If you haven't read Planet Size X-Men #1, or if you are behind on your reading, just fast forward for about 10 minutes or so, because we're going to be talking Hellfire Gala stuff in the wake of the announcement of the of what happens during the fireworks of Planet Size X-Men #1, namely that Araco is the first mutant world. How does that come about? Because the X-Men basically terraform Mars and create a new planet out of it.
Right. So they basically, as I say in my notes, they basically did in short order what it took the whole of Total Recall to end up doing. Well, actually, they went a step better, honestly. But
no, I was saying they created. I was about to say they did a step better. They basically created another livable atmosphere.
Right.
So,
which I mean, yeah, which they kind of did at the end of, in a way, did at the end of the Total Recall, but it was more so. But yeah, they definitely in this case made a whole ass Earth-like environment out of Mars.
Exactly. And right at the end, we find, and we're talking very broad strokes because the bulk of the issue is about how Duggan is essentially extending the concept that Hickman was using at the beginning of the Hox Pox run and throughout his, run as being kind of like the central editor of these books, or the central, kind of coordinator of these books.
The Shepherd, yeah.
The idea of circuits, of mutant circuits, and mutants enhancing each other's powers, and using them in conjunction with each other to create and to further create, better and or further reaching effects. And we find here that they were able to utilize several mutants in combination and in sequence to literally create a world from, create life where there was none.
Right.
And it was pretty impressive.
Exactly.
The art on this was incredible. The scope, just the scope, was just awe-inspiring. It's not something that you see every day. It's like, you know what? Let's just make a planet.
Right.
Like a living, breathing planet.
Well, I was about to say, yeah, let's basically terraform this planet that was already like, hey, here you go. Here's the next one up. We just make it livable, because the planet obviously was already there, and it's not like a brand new planet. But no, like, hey, let's just make it livable for us. So weirdly thing about,
I was about to say, in a sense, livable. In a sense, brand new because it wasn't livable before.
Right.
And obviously when we say they just terraformed, they did a lot more than just kind of like, oh, just throw some dirt on there, throw some water on there. No, they literally had to enhance the planet's core. And, talk about like a mix of pseudoscience and real science.
All right, here we go. They pretty much used the Genesis device, but if the Genesis device was made up of a bunch of mutant powers all working in conjunction.
Con!
There we go. There we go.
Con!
So yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I was very much impressed by this issue. And I said at the end that there are a few notes. One that, there's the X-Men basically set up a port. Oh, back up for a second. So the whole point of creating this planet and naming Araco is that they needed to put the denizens of Araco somewhere else.
Right.
They need to get them the hell away from Krakoa because they were kind of creating some diplomatic problems.
Right.
They're obviously not of Earth, so they needed to have their own place to kind of do their own thing and behave the way they normally would,
right,
and not have to abide by like earthly rules. So this was the solution that they came up with. And
actually, there was a couple of things that this planet was doing, because one, it was that. Two,
right,
because of what happened in X Corp, they lost one of their medicine plants, and apparently
right,
they come to find out that people are asking for way more than they can supply. So they needed to get another supply chain working up, and what better way to do it, and then to, even though they had a couple of them, then to make another place where you can do that. So yeah, this whole planet thing was serving a couple of different things. So the Reckons got a new place to live. They got the Krakoans got a new place to do to make their medicine, and for them also to live.
Right, exactly, and that's what that was the main point, is that they
Right.
need to get them the hell off of Earth,
Right.
so that they could live their own lives. Um, Part of what they established on Morocco, and they're calling it now, one, the first mutant world, and two, the capital of the solar system. I was like, wow, we are really being presumptuous here, mutants.
Yeah. So let's go back to the first mutant worlds situation for one quick second, because I don't know if you remember that. I don't think you're reading. I think I might have been one of the only ones, one of us who was reading this at the time. But Uncanny Avengers.
I read it.
Did you? So do you remember when?
But go on.
So there was a point in that book where, and I don't know if it was like a time jump or there was some weird. It was that whole book was just weird in itself, where all of the mutants left Earth and went to another planet, and I think Janet went with the mutants because she was with Havoc at the time, which is still weird.
That's Rick Remender for you.
Yeah, exactly. But they had a whole ass another planet, and I'm sitting here like, well, this is so technically, if that, and I can't remember how that even played out, or they just like cleaned it off, like they just wiped it off the like they just kind of wiped it from memory or something like that, because it has never come back up ever again. Like, so they could very well be something that's like, no, it was just something for right then and there, and they pretty much reset the ball on that one. They reset the world, and there you go. They had the little canister, and they reset the world after that. After that whole book ended up being whatever it was. But that was a thing. So kind of technically it wasn't. This is not the first mutant world, but it's actually the first one that's probably like canon. Because
Right.
it looks like, because we don't know. I can't remember what in the world ended up happening to that whole situation.
So, I don't even remember it. So
I remember that. That's why when I was reading this, I was like, well, wait, I know that. I remember that being the thing, and I almost went back and tried to read about that, but I was like, nah, I don't feel like it.
Right. And now, and this was a the concept of this was a surprise to me, and now I understand why Sword may come up as a more important book in the next round of Hellfire Gala books.
Right, because there's something happened in this that brings Sword into a little bit more prominence with
well, giving them an extra assignment.
Exactly.
So that's essentially what comes up. So
that whole part was kind of
unsettling. You to read that. I was about to say it's up to you folks to read it so that you find out what we are referencing very obliquely.
Right, and I'm just going to say that whole part where that came into play was kind of unsettling.
just a little.
I'm like, oh wow, so that's how like you kind of took them literally, huh? And then just did that. Like, all right, Jamie Braddock.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty interestingly done. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with how they pulled it off. I did not expect that to be their ultimate goal.
Right.
I don't know if you had any inkling about it.
Well, so when I read they were doing planet size, I was just thinking, okay, maybe they were going to do something with that space, with that Shi'ar space that they got, because we know they have space in Kree territory. In Shi'ar territory. So I was just thinking they were just going to do something with that. I didn't think this was going to happen. So, this kind of won up that one. And as far as I know, they still have that Shi'ar space. So they pretty much said planet size X-Men, we take that part kind of literally.
Right. Right. I mean, I had an inkling that it had something to do with space.
Right.
And I had an inkling that Sword was going to be important just based upon the reading list and Hickman highlighting that Sword number 6 was going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out next week.
Right.
So, knowing that, I knew that it was going to be space related, but I did not know that they were going to do this. So I thought this was pretty impressive. And I really like some of the data pages, the text pages that were included in this, very Hickman style, very X-Men style, Hickman X-Men style now,
right.
Which had a letter from the X desk at the Krakoan desk at it's the FBI, right?
Or is it the FBI, CIA, I believe. Yeah, it's either State Department or CIA. I can't remember. honestly.
I can't remember either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's from the X-Dusk and from NASA and JPL down over at over in Cali. I really enjoyed this because it made so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, of course JPL and NASA are gonna say this.
Right. Right.
Of course they're going to react that way when they find out about these particular events happening. So I really got a kick out of that. I thought that was a nice little finishing touch on this issue.
Exactly. That being said, I think we can probably move on.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely shout out to Hickman, because everything we found out during Hoxbox with the whole with the circus and everything kind of leading up to this just opened up things like crazy stuff like this to happen, and having people being able to use it like this in a way that in the past it was like, oh no, did we just like magicked up, or we just popped out a thing, or the resurrection protocols just happen to be a thing that, I don't know, some crazy way that this mutant happens to be alive for some stupid reason or whatever other thing. But I do love all the couching in, hey, if you put the mutants' powers working together like Marvel Ultimate Alliance style, they can pretty much do everything, because they pretty much have a mutant that could do anything they needed to do.
Well, now that they've all been resurrected,
exactly,
or at least they can be resurrected.
Exactly. Yeah, so they have something that's going to be able to do whatever they needed to do. So yeah, shout out to all that. But anyway, let us move on to I guess we'll go on to stay in the X corner of the world.
We'll wrap up the other Hellfire Gala books from this week. Next up in the reading list is actually New Mutants number 19, written by Vita Ayala, with art by Alex Lins, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this is one of those tangential tie-ins, while still carrying forward some of the storylines that have been happening in the pages of New Mutants, namely, what I actually liked about this is it actually picked up on the storylines that didn't necessarily need to have the biggest exposure, even though you could argue that it's getting a lot of exposure by being in the Hellfire Gala crossover issue.
Right. One
being Warlock's personal issues with Doug Ramsey getting married, and I really liked how Vita Ayala dealt with this in the pages of this book.
Right.
It was just very organic, and there's some very personal moments being shared by some of the OG New Mutants, and a lot of that stuff is has been simmering for a while, in the pages of New Mutants, and even before New Mutants. I wasn't sure if this character that pops up, this person who's in, what's that?
The douchebag.
Yeah, is that someone is that a character based on someone in real life?
Probably, but I don't know, because at first I was like, I don't know if that was actually a person that we supposed to, it's an actual celebrity. Because if you don't know, if anybody doesn't know that there are actually celebrities, that they have, earthly celebrities that they have at the gallery.
I was going to say real life celebrities.
Real life celebrities, yes, thank you.
Real life celebrities literally being drawn in, and we haven't seen too many lately. I think the vast majority of them were drawn into the earlier books as people were making their way into the party.
Right. There's definitely a couple in X Corp.
Really?
Yeah.
As we go through that, I'll flip through and I'll let you talk about it, because I only skimmed it.
Right.
So, but
as far as that dude is concerned, then I'm not entirely sure if he's a real person.
Right. So so as I said, in New Mutants, Warpath of all people kind of helps Warlock figure out what he needs to do, and it's interesting because Warpath is a character that has been around for a long time. He started out in the Hellions, the original Hellions, and made his way over to the first version of X-Force under Cable, and it seems like he has become kind of a mainstay, even though he's done a lot of X-Force stuff and wet work type stuff. He's kind of become a mainstay in this group of New Mutants as a younger, as part of the younger crowd.
Right.
And it's nice that Warlock and he had this conversation, and Warlock is able to kind of get over his issues. Unfortunately, one of the other storylines that's carried forward in this book is the Shadow King storyline, having to do with some of these more physically deformed younger mutants, and unfortunately what happens, something bad happens to Honey Badger, or Scout, as
Scout.
she is known now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which that part was like, oh no,
yeah, that's bad. It was bad news for one Gabby. So,
but the thing I was kind of, the thing I guess we don't know, because I don't want to spoil this. So we'll talk about it later. But what exactly is her state at this point?
Right. Well, considering that she's got a mutant healing factor, and the person who is the at this point the antagonist of this group of the New Mutant story is a psychic. It's probably psychic related.
Yeah, I was thinking like he pretty much blanked her mind or something like that. Because weirdly enough, if you see the page where she shows up, because she had been missing and Laura's been looking for her this whole issue, in an anime sense, it looks like she's dead.
Right.
But yeah, like given what you said, and what I thought also was like, yeah, that seems more likely the case than not, because it makes sense, because if she actually was dead, which would be a hard thing for her to happen to her, she could still be resurrected, and that wouldn't really take her off the board for as long as he probably needs her to be. Right. But it's still sad regardless, especially seeing the letter that she writes at the end of this issue, because this has definitely been a thing that's been going through a couple of issues. Her hanging around with these other mutants, and her relationship with Laura, and that's kind of thing. So to see that letter at the end of this was kind of heartbreaking. Even though, like I said, we know we would hope at some point this is gonna this is nothing permanent. But also with the Warlock thing, I don't know, did you have noticed anything with the art with him?
Well, that it was a very stylized depiction of Warlock.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. There were a couple of well, I'm not trying to make a thing into a thing, but there was a couple of art choices, like especially in the beginning, that seemed a little weird, that some people would probably take a certain way. But like I said, I don't want to believe that's what they were kind of going for. I'll put it that way. But also,
it looks like he has dreads.
Well, kind of along those lines, let's say. Yeah, it's there's a depiction that one or two of those of his panels look a little bit of a problem. Could be potential look like a little bit of a problem if you take it that way. I'll put it that way. But that aside, yeah, like I said, the whole other interpersonal things between, like, the whole storyline with Rain. I keep wanting to call her. I'm about to call her Rain again. We already know what her real name, how to pronounce her name. With the whole thing with Rain, it's still kind of up in the air, and they're talking about that. And that one little splash page with Shan was actually pretty cool too.
When she steps out in her Hellfire Gala gown,
right? Because we rarely ever, if ever, have seen her like that. So it was like, oh, all right, go ahead on, Shan.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the character development that they're trying to put forward for these New Mutants. Is that they're not old, they're not truly grown up, except for maybe Sam,
right?
Because he's now a parent, but the rest of them are still in their growing up phase. So they're all, this is still they are still developing as young people in this.
Well,
So
but also I know what you're saying, but Sam's still growing up himself, even though he is a parent. So
right. No, but you know what I mean, like as
I know what
opposed
you
to
mean,
being
though. Yeah,
like
he has
there's
more
as opposed to being
responsibilities
a
than
young
others.
parent, right? Exactly,
Right,
because young parents are still growing. But you
right,
know what I mean, like they're still like young people still finding their way.
right.
So uh
But yeah, you're right. Also, I was trying to also flip through this book to see if there was actually any, because I feel like they've made a point to kind of put a couple of actual celebrities in each one of the books, and yeah, it doesn't seem like this one does has anybody of note.
I didn't necessarily spot them. Usually they're easier to spot because they will highlight the face.
Exactly.
And I was assuming that the celebrity was this jerk face who was messing with Shan the whole time, or
Right.
Xian the whole time. And I didn't bother to try to look up who that might be.
Right.
But I was just very, very much curious.
Right, and the only other person you could think of is like there's on page like 5 or something where Danny and Warlock is taking a picture of somebody, but they don't really focus on it that much to that it could be anybody of note. So that being said, we can move along to X Corp number 2.
All right.
I can do
all
that.
right. So you can take. Yeah, I was about to say you could take this because I'm gonna go look through this and see if I can spot famous people.
Yeah, there's one I feel like you'll definitely know. And there's somebody else in that same panel. But anyway, so the creative team is written by Tini Howard. We're talking about X Corp number 2, written by Tini Howard. Art by Alberto Face. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced. Color artist Sunny Go, and the letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this is also at the gala, and this whole thing is pretty much Monet and Warren having meetings, or conducting meetings with potential board meetings and board members, excuse me, during the course of the gala. They're also meeting with this one, or we're going to be meeting with this one human for business reasons. As we've kind of found out. So I think most of the meetings that they were taking were to try to find prospective board members that they're trying to fill seats for. And like I said, the one's human who's trying to strike up a business deal with them, who also had a meeting with another set of mutants who we'll just go ahead and say it's stuck the Fenris twins, who are pretty much Nazis. No one likes them. And that has come across very nicely in the course of this book, and they also get their asses handed to them, which is also good to see during the course of this. But yeah, so this is Monet and Warren trying to navigating through the gala, taking all of these meetings and trying to find the board members, some of which particularly like Jamie Braddock's trying to get a little bit more insight as to what his role would be if he were to take said board member role, because he seemed to be all happy, in his lab work or whatever the case may be. So he's kind of felt like he's been put off during the course of this. So he kind of makes his way to try to talk to both of them to kind of get a little bit more insight, and because like I said, it kind of felt like they were just kind of putting them off. So they were also taking meetings with Celine, who's pretty much dressed like Bayonetta, as if you know video games, she kind of looks like that. But also, who else were they talking to? Actually, I totally forgot the other meetings that they were talking to about this. Oh, Mastermind. And who else? There was another meeting, I thought. So it was Mastermind, Celine, the Fenris twins. Oh, Roberto DaCosta, Sunspot.
Right, and Neil Shower.
Yeah.
The second or third Thunderbird.
I was gonna ask you about that because that one I don't remember.
That was from Extreme X-Men.
Okay.
When Claremont did that branch off book, and he called them the Extreme X-Men.
Gotcha. So yeah, so like I said, they were navigating their way through all of this during the course of this book, and that's pretty much how this book kind of plays off. Like I said, outside of the Fenris twins getting their behind beat for being duplicitous, because they're trying to get in, they're trying to find out stuff about their new headquarters, floating headquarters or whatnot. Sunspot's mad because because of the events of last issue when the lab the medical lab that we talked about getting blown up in Savage Land, or getting blown up in Savage Land happened because a lot of his money was tied up in that, I guess, or a lot of his money is tied up in the X-Corp, but basically, so he was kind of upset about that as a as an investor. But also apparently he was going to be on the board member. Of course, Bobby's being Bobby. But did you but that's pretty much it. Did you see the
Right. So I see a few panels that seem to have celebrities drawn into them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I think is DMC because based on the glasses and the fedora and the goatee. There's another black man on the right side of that panel. Who is that?
That I'm not sure.
But it definitely looks like someone who was drawn into the book.
Right.
Right. And then as we get towards the end of the book, as we get back to the party, there is a panel with a gentleman and lady, a brown-haired dude and a blonde-haired lady in a blue dress holding champagne flutes.
Yes.
I'm not sure who that is, but that definitely looks like some people who are drawn in. And in the top right, also with another drinking glass, also looks like someone who was drawn in, but I can't tell you who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who those were, but yes, I also noticed those. So yeah, I think you pretty much caught everybody just as much as I did.
Interesting that DMC's in there. I may have to pick this up now.
I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, he has, big comic fan. One has dealt, we have done some things with Marvel as well as his own comic books before. So yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
But yeah, that is pretty much that, and that is the end of the X Corner for this week. Did you have another book you want to throw out there before we go to wrap it?
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of the Heroes Reborn stuff.
Okay.
Because it is coming to an end.
Yes.
Heroes Reborn stuff is coming to an end very quickly because we have now hit Heroes Reborn number 7. This is actually the last issue of Heroes Reborn. Next week, we're going to get Heroes Return number 1, which would make this that's kind of like a, even though it's got because it's got a different title, it's got new numbering.
Right.
But it's the ending of this particular series. So it's in sum an 8-issue series when you look at it in sum. But Heroes Reborn number 7, written by Jason Aaron with art on the main story by Aaron Cooter, pencils on the backup by Ed McGuinness, inks on the backup by Mark Morales, colors on the first story, the main story by Dean White, colors on the backup by Matthew Wilson, and letters on the whole thing by VC's Corey Pettit. And what we get in the main story is really the squadron coming to terms with what they have been discovering over the course of the some of the present day parts of these stories, because some of this stuff has been happening in flashback. Some of it has been happening over the course of these 7 issues when it comes to the Squadron Supreme of America main storyline. We've gotten some of it in flashbacks, but most of it in current day. And what they've been discovering in the current day are these oddities, kind of things that aren't sitting with people the right way. And obviously, as the Avengers are starting to be awoken and revived, the term Avengers seems to become more and more prevalent in their lexicon. And they actually meet about this, and they meet to talk about what they're going to do. And of course, they use this time to Hyperion tries to use this time to talk about his feelings, but Nighthawk figures out that there really is something afoot We also find out that there was their version of Civil War event that happens. That's actually described at the beginning of the story.
Right, they bring that back
And
up
as
again.
say again.
They bring that back up again because I think it was mentioned last week within the Power Princess issue.
Right. And as they investigate what was whatchamacallit, who is this? Who are the ones that found out about Cap being in the ice?
Blur and Power Prism, or not Power Princess,
Dr. Spectrum.
Dr. Spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because he's holding the Power Prism. That's not
Right,
his name.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So Dr. Spectrum and Blur find out about Cap's body being removed out of the ice, and basically the squadron go to investigate while certain while they look into other things, and they actually do a quick flashback to an Alpha Flight a mission against Alpha Flight that actually ties into this week's Heroes Reborn tie-in book.
Yeah,
But
directly
that's just
from
the
actually.
tease. Right, it's just the tease for that. So if you want more of that, you should take a look at that Weapon X and Alpha. What is it called?
Weapon X and Weapon X and Final Flight.
Final Flight. That's
yeah.
it.
Which I'm kind of scrubbing through it right now while you're talking. So
I flipped through. It was interesting, but it's not, it's nothing that needs to be, that's essential reading unless you're really curious about what happened with the set of characters based on this little short 2-page spread in the main Heroes Reborn book. But as I said, the squadron are investigating. They're trying to track down who or what these Avengers are. We find out that there actually was a version of the squadron called the Dark Squadron, which is kind of like coming out of Secret Invasion. There was what was that event called with Norman Osborn taking over the security apparatus? Dark Reign.
Dark Reign. Yeah.
There's a version of Dark Reign that happens to these characters as well. And we even find out there was a One More Day bit with Blur, his own version of One More Day. But at the end, the Squadron Supreme of America tracks down this mysterious energy signature, which we all know as vibranium, to what would be Wakanda. And it turns out that is where the Avengers have been regrouping and laying in wait. And now it looks like we're about to see the throwdown in Heroes Return. There is a backup story that involves President Phil Coulson, Secretary of Defense General Thunderbolt Ross, and Press Secretary J. Jonah Jameson, and some machinations going into effect. And we finally find out how everything happened. We don't have confirmation as to how exactly it's done, but it is a variation of an older theme, with Mephisto being right at the center of it. That is me being very, very much oblique about and vague about what's happening, because I thought this series was fun. It's a nice little what if type of story. Kind of told in real time, in real continuity. It didn't take that long, and luckily they all came out fairly timely. I don't think they missed a week. So they were able to get this out on time. It feels like this would have been it ends up being like an early summer event. Like it's not quite, it wasn't quite summer when it launched, but it's kind of like an early summer event for the Avengers. So I'm enjoying this. It's fun.
Right. I mean, like I said, and as much as I hate to bring this point back up, but we still, even though we know how this world kind of sort of came into being, I guess that's going to explain what's ever going to happen in the Avengers, assuming that has something to do with this, because we know the or make sure we don't. And it could be very much as like, no, it's not going to go. It's just going to jump into this here, and then when it gets back to Avengers, we're just not going to see anything from it. Like it could be a future state situation where we're already seeing what's going on, but we'll get to the point to where it actually, the catalyst actually happens in the next issue or two of Avengers, but we don't know. So, which is actually, that's kind of been the thing that's been sticking with me. I was like, okay, so where exactly this is, like, where was the snap? That's the thing I've been kind of wondering. Like, where was the snap that made this happen? And I don't know what, and at this point, it kind of doesn't matter as much because, like I said, we've pretty much gotten this event over with at this point. So, and yeah, actually, I just finished reading that, just skimming through that tie-in book. That was interesting. So we're going to end up with the Heroes Return book next week, and to tie this all up in a nice, neat bow. And the other thing to kind of, I'm going to be curious about coming out of that is like, okay, well, how are they just gonna, like, are they going to end it out there, or is it actually going to go back into the Avengers book, in some kind of way, coming out of this? Because like I said, because when we last left the Avengers book, they had just finished that tournament for the Phoenix thing. And then this just happened. Like there was no just like pop going into it. Like it's just a thing that happened. Unlike the original Heroes Reborn book, if I'm not mistaken, or the event, whereas the books that stopped pretty much got to a point and led into this with the catalyst.
Right. I mean, the books kind of stopped. They had an event, the Onslaught event,
right.
And that's what started Heroes Reborn. Right. So they did have a separate mini event called Heroes Return back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So there be that. That being said, I think we're done with that.
Yep.
Well, you know what? We didn't necessarily talk about that tie-in book. We did at least very much mention it. So technically, that's that. We want to go into rapid fire, yes?
Absolutely.
Hit it.
I ain't got time to breathe.
Rapid fire, cuz.
Alrighty, shall I lead off?
Sure. What actually do you have? Yeah, go for it.
Alrighty, first up is Berserker #3, written by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kindt, with art by Ron Garney, colors by Bill Crabtree, and letters by Clem Robbins. So this is another look into, the character doesn't have a name, but I'm going to call the character Unute. Apparently this is another word for tool or weapon to these kind of primitive type folks. I mean, they're not, it's kind of tough to figure out what timeline we're talking about here, but these are, barbarian types, and still very much on the early side of technology, very primitive technology. So without spoiling everything, we found out last issue how this Unut character came to be, and now just 2 years after this character is born, he's basically a young man wreaking havoc as a tool and a weapon for his parents, or his father specifically, who is trying to expand his rule over over a certain geographic area. And that's essentially where we leave off here. It's a really kind of action filled issue, lots of figuring out what this character might be going through and why he's feeling the way he's feeling. It's probably an important issue if you want to stay on top of the character's motivations and how the character is going to be reacting to some of the stuff he sees in present day moving forward. But it's still early on in the series. It's still an interesting read.
Right. So wait, you just said this was the Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. And yeah, like I think we talked about this before, where it just kind of feels like another Valiant book that I believe Matt Kent had some writings into.
Like
But
Eternal Warrior.
exactly. Like it feels like it has shades to, like I haven't read this. I think I read like some the first issue, and I'm like it feels like it kind of had shades of that, even though I never really read that book all that seriously, or actually much at all ever. Like kind of glimpsed an issue of that, but it kind of feels like it's a similar thing.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. Anyway, next up.
Next up is Captain America Annual #1. It's written by Jerry Duggan with art by Marco Castiello. Fixing some typos in my notes. Inks by Vincenzo Acunzo. Colors by Ruth Redmond, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. I was about to say, there's a bunch of paisans over here. This issue provides a closer look at the criminal Hector Bautista, now codenamed Overtime, bonded with the Time Gem / Time Stone, chased by Cap and Black Widow. Bautista essentially wants to change his past in order to try to redeem himself, but is not yet able to do so. And that's why he's learning that he's able to manipulate time, but to what extent he doesn't know yet. All right, next, and as a overview, this is part of the Infinite Destinies group of annuals that are coming out this summer to highlight the humans who have been bonded to the Infinity Stones, Infinity Gems, as a result of what happened at the end of Infinity Wars, like 2 years ago.
Okay, so I was kind of wondering, like, it felt like these were coming out of the blue. Okay, that makes sense because I don't remember reading that.
Yeah, I read it. I read a little bit. I pulled it. It was okay. It wasn't great.
Right.
But I'm pretty certain all of it's on Marvel Unlimited now, so you are more than welcome to catch up on it.
Mm-hmm.
After you read Hulk Future Imperfect. But because somehow Roddykat still hasn't read a 2-issue miniseries. Let's see.
Like
next up is Fantastic Four number 33.
Any Hulk books coming out, or Maestro books coming out.
Right. Written by Dan Slott, art by R.B. Silva and Luca Maresca, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This is absolutely a potential click of the week for me. As strong as Planet Size X-Men is, I was in awe of what they were doing in Planet Size X-Men #1. But I got such a kick out of Dan Slott's storytelling in this and R.B. Silva's art in this. Their storytelling together and how they told the story of, minor spoiler alert, it has been in the solicitations, it has been in the comic book news, but if you aren't aware, spoiler alert again, Dr. Doom is getting married, right? And his bride is none other than Victorious, the lady who has been introduced, this character who's been introduced in the pages of Slott's FF, since early on in the run, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And she is, she is his, fiance at this point, early on in the book. And the FF have been invited to play certain roles in the wedding by Victor Von Doom, and they are, they essentially make their way to the wedding early in the issue. We get a reappearance of a tiger who apparently is still alive, and if you are an old-time FF fan, you will understand the editor's note in the book and realize that this tiger's been around for a long time. Johnny Storm is trying to reach out to Victorious because of something that they did in the last issue. And believe it or not, it does come up. It doesn't come up the way you think it would, and all hell breaks loose as a result. But it does not come up as you think it might. And the way it comes up and the way it is depicted is a joy to behold, an actual joy to behold.
Okay.
So it's just very, very fun to read. So this is a potential click of the week for me. Next up, we did Heroes Reborn, Mighty Valkyries #3, written by Jason Aaron and Torun Grunback. It's essentially told in two halves of the book. Art on the first story by Mattia De Eulis, art on the second story by Erica D'Urso, colors on the second story by Marcio Meniz, and letters on the whole kit and caboodle by VC's Joe Sabino. So believe it or not, I had kind of lost track of what was going on because I think this dual storyline or parallel storytelling style was getting to my memory. And this is one of those times when I absolutely appreciated the recap page at the beginning of the book. And if Roddykat is not up to date on this, I would absolutely recommend that you read the notes page at the beginning of this issue, the recap of the previous several issues, because it is only issue #3.
So
But,
I read
this
issue.
happened, of course, with the first 2 issues.
Right, I read issue 2 like yesterday, so it's I'll be fine. Yeah, but good to
Right.
know about that though.
It definitely helped me process where we are and what's happening in this book. So that being said, what's happening with Jane Foster and Loki and Kraven the Hunter makes a weird appearance, but there is a real reason for it, and there is some Norse stuff afoot that Kraven has been hired to take part in, and it's definitely proving to be an interesting. He's an interesting foil for Jane Foster as a relatively new hero in the form of Valkyrie. Not necessarily new as a hero, but new in the form of Valkyrie.
Right.
In addition, we also have the story of Runa, the character who essentially is based upon the Tessa Thompson Valkyrie character in the MCU, trying to make a getaway with a character who is kind of an oracle, and they're on their way to Vanaheim, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with Hela, which is which is probably going to tie both of these parallel stories together. So I'm not trying to describe everything in detail, because I think Roddykat is going to end up reading this, but I definitely needed that summary at the beginning to really process what was going on, and now I feel a lot better about where the story might be going, because I think I see where everything is going to come together and how. Next up is Miles Morales, Spider-Man #27. I know Roddykat read this. It's written by Saladin Ahmed, art by Carmen Carnero, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So Miles and Salim, one of his clones, his evil clones, or not so evil clones, as we come to find out, are essentially having a back and forth, because Miles unknowingly destroyed some of their research into trying to stabilize their mutations and their bodies, because they weren't meant to last, much the same way the previous clones of Miles were meant to disintegrate after a certain time. They are meant to disintegrate too, and they had worked something out to try to halt the decay, and Miles unknowingly destroyed that work. And now Salim is looking for revenge, and he takes the psychic one, who also has a spider arms in the back, like he was like Iron Spider or Dr. Octopus.
Right, Mind Spinner.
Mind Spinner. I was about to say, I know he has a code name because he has these psychic powers. And he takes Mind Spinner to exact a plan of revenge, and to bring a particular hostage back, or a hostage back. And Miles is left trying to get out of this webbing, which apparently is of inferior quality to his own, which is obviously based on the original Peter Parker's webbing. But what's his guy's name? Not
Shift.
Shift?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So
I know you did the same. You were about to do the same thing I did too, because I wanted to call him Globe, because that's what pretty much all he says. Yeah.
Right. So yes, it's not glurp. Yeah, it's glurp. I was like, oh, so yeah, so Shift is Shift basically grows a soft spot for Miles and lets him go. And it basically, there's basically a chase through I'm not sure which hospital Rio Morales works in. Brooklyn University. Oh yeah, Brooklyn University. It's probably an amalgam of different hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
But based on some of the real life hospitals that I know of. But ultimately, Rio was a potential target, but it turns out there are other targets.
Yes, as close to Miles as she is.
Right.
To which we find out at the end of the issue. Yeah, I get caught up with.
Right. I get a kick out of the fact that Selim's hairstyle is super retro.
Yeah.
Super, super retro. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen anyone cut a line like that in a long time.
I feel like there's probably still a couple people that's doing it, but yeah, you're right. You don't really see it. You don't really see it that often anymore.
I mean, I'm fresh from the barber.
Anyway.
I am literally fresh from the barber. Maybe whatchamacallit, less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have seen cuts like that before.
Right. But yeah, it was a good issue. That's all I got to pretty much say about it.
Alrighty. All right. So we did New Mutants. Next up is Nightwing number 81, written by Tom Taylor, art by Bruno Redondo, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. So, in a nutshell, we kind of conclude what happens at the end of last issue when it comes to Nightwing and some of these kids who have found themselves trapped on a pier. But there is. I mean, the whole point of this issue is the revelation at the end. Whether or not it's true is, still yet to be determined. But this revelation proves to be a shocker, where Nightwing's origin has seemingly gotten far more complicated in the course of a couple of pages than we ever thought. So it's an interesting revelation, to say the least. All right. Next up, I know Roddykat read this, Static Season number 1. It's written by Vita Ayala with pencils by Chris Cross and inks and colors by Nicholas Draper Ivy. This is a digital first release, so this was released on Comixology and DC Unlimited, or DC, however DC sells its digital comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I skimmed this, so I think Roddykat will be able to speak to this more fully. But as a fan of the cartoon, it definitely felt good to see this character get some more play. And I also enjoyed seeing Chris Cross get some more exposure. I always enjoyed his art coming up. He actually was integral in the redesign of Captain Marvel when Janice Vell took over the costume, took over the identity. And I know that he had a lot to do with I want to say Kyle Rayner.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern.
Okay.
Had a lot to do with that. Or was that Darryl Banks? Could have been Darryl Banks. I could be mistaken. I'm going to do some quick research while Roddykat discusses this issue. I just wanted to throw in the fact that the origin was very familiar, but had very current had a very current events twist to the origin.
And honestly, that's really realistically about as much as you can say about this, or you can say about this. Because yes, even if your knowledge of Static, and granted, my knowledge of Static is pretty much as much the comic book as it was the old Milestone books. I know I have read at least one or two of them, but I was not reading them back in the day. So I can't really say outside of outside of updating it for making it a little bit more modern take and how he got his part. Well, he pretty much goes through the same motions, but they do put a modern spin on him and his look and that stuff in this retelling of his origin. But I can't say that I remember how originally it was when the Milestone stuff came out. Also, it would also might, if you plan on reading this issue, you might want to read the Milestones Returns book that came out a few months back, and I believe it's still free on like Comixology or something like that. It's called Milestones Return, and I believe there is a Infinite Edition, or yeah, it looks like Infinite Edition or something like that. I can't remember what that edition is called, but there is a version that is out there, and it's like Milestone Returns Zero, and in that book, um, pretty much references a thing that happens. Pretty much references his origin prior to what happens in this issue, if I'm not mistaken. Like I didn't read it, but it does definitely footnote to that issue and the event of that issue. So you may want to go ahead and check it out. Like I said, it's free on Comixology, so it's barrier to entry on that one is low. That being said, like I said, yeah, it was. I enjoyed reading this, and I could also say, like I was about to say, if you like Agent 70 and like myself are pretty much more familiar with Static from the cartoon, having watched the first episode of that cartoon fairly recently, it still kind of comes off about the same. I mean, like I said, tonally it's a little bit different because the cartoon is a little more lighter in '90s and that kind of good mess. But as far as the story beats are concerned, I believe between the Milestone Returns book and going into this issue, I think some of it kind of plays out the same way or a similar way. So you shouldn't worry about, whether you're going to be lost on his actual origin or not, unless you, like I said, want to go back and get those books, which are out there by now, because they have been reissuing those old Milestone books leading up to this. So, and I would recommend if if you're not already, don't already have it, because I know they've had sales on. Hey, dude, it is definitely a touchstone moment in comic history. That's worth checking out at the very least. But yeah, like I said, the updates to this book are pretty good. The thing that happens at the end of this book, it's going to cause a problem. Well, not only for Virtual and his family, but for the person who did said thing. That part, I think that might be a little bit the thing that's different from the cartoon for certain. But I'm not sure about, like I said, the old '90s era. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how much they're taking from that. Outside of the initial, hey, this is how you got the powers.
Exactly. They still use the same terminology, which is what I was mentioning earlier. So a lot of that stuff is just repurposed, and recontextualized for this particular version of, the Big Bang.
Yep.
So, just as a quick note, I was right initially that Chris Cross did the Captain Marvel stuff when they redid Janice Vell's uniform. I was incorrect. He did do some Green Lantern stuff, which is what I was remembering, but it was very recent, 2020. It's Darryl Banks that was doing the Kyle Rayner stuff way back when Hal Jordan was going crazy. He had that picture, the image, the cover when he had all the rings.
Gotcha.
Like during the Parallax time. That was Darryl Banks's art. But Chris Cross did do a Green Lantern story in 2020, which is why it popped into my head. Okay. But I definitely remember Chris Cross doing art for that Captain Marvel, that version of Captain Marvel with Peter David when he was doing the Janice Vell stuff.
Okay, good to know.
Next up, I am slowly getting to the end. Oh, yeah, I am at the end of my books. Venom number 35/200 in the Marvel chronology. This is the wrap-up to Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's big Venom run of 35 issues or so, which encompassed King in Black and the establishment of Venom as a kind of like a frontline hero in a sense. So let me run through this very quickly because it's a kind of a jam a work of several artists and a few writers and several artists, that is, on this book, because Donny Cates is the main writer on the book. Philip Kennedy Johnson does help with a few pages. It's penciled by Ryan Stegman, Kev Walker, Danilo S. Beyruth, Ron Lim, Guiu Villanova, Gerardo Sandoval, Mark Bagley. It's inked by J.P. Mayer, Jay Leaston, Kev Walker, Danilo S. Beyruth, Scott Hanna, Guiu Villanova, and Gerardo Sandoval, Victor Nava, and John Dell. Colors by Frank Martin, Chris O'Haller, and Jim Campbell, Matt Miller, and Alex Sinclair, and Chris Sotomayor and Richard Eisenove, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Long story short, after that entire rigmarole of credits, this is as I said, the culmination of Donny Cates' story. If you are not familiar with what happened coming out of King in Black to Eddie Brock, it's been established that he is now the spoiler alert. If you don't want to know and you want to go read it, fast forward a few minutes. But bottom line is, Eddie Brock has essentially become the king of the symbiotes, and he essentially, while he is still located on Earth, his powers allow him to exert control over I guess I forget the name of the planet. I think it's Clintar.
Clintar, yeah.
But ultimately, he's able to exert that control from where he is here on Earth, and his symbiote now is tagging along with his son Dylan, who the power of the power that he had over symbiotes, that is what drew Null to him in the first place, has been drawn out of him. But now Dylan is finding himself having issues with anger, and ultimately, if you can figure out where this is going, Dylan becomes the new Venom. And so what I was telling Roddykat earlier came to pass, which is one of the heroes you never thought would be a legacy hero comes to pass. And while it makes some sense, because the powers pass along with the symbiote, as long as the symbiote finds a new host, you get the powers. We literally have the passing of the torch here in this book, where the son takes on the mantle of the father, and we have a true legacy hero created in the pages of this book. So it's the Venom for the next generation, and that is it for me.
Gotcha. Are you going to keep going after this
With
Venom?
I've only been keeping track of it, not really reading it. So I just read this issue just to see how Cates and Stegman would wrap up their run.
Right.
And this is the status quo going forward. Be interesting to see. It definitely is something decent for the next writer to pick up.
Okay, cool.
It's not an impossible. It's not like they left him in jail, which is something that happens to Daredevil a lot. It's not like,
and recently,
exactly. It's not like they left, because that's what happened, I think, at the end of Brubaker's run.
Right.
And Bendis had to pick up from there. But my point being, they're leaving the character in a somewhat positive place for the next creative team to pick up.
And lastly, wait, so the kid, so I do know I remember the kid had powers over the symbiote. So it got drawn out of him into Eddie, or just in general?
I'm not sure. I think it was drawn into Eddie, because I think that became part of his power as being the god of the symbiotes.
Okay. Cool, I guess. For me, the only other book that I have is Star Wars number 14. The creative team on this book is Charles Soule is the writer, art by Ramon Rosanas, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. This is a continuation of the War of the Bounty Hunters event that is going on line-wide in the Star Wars corner of the universe. And I had just gotten caught up with said storyline recently. Well, I think I might have actually missed a tie-in, I think, from whatever. But regardless, So this is a continuation of that. So pretty much at this point, everybody knows that one, this is it's to be said that this takes place after Empire Strikes Back. We've said this before because this is where this line of the books are that's the chronology of it right now. But this is taking place after, well, during the time of, let's say, Boba Fett transporting Han, or supposedly transporting Han to Jabba. In this case, the event is because of the fact that Han, who is still encased in carbonite, has been stolen from Boba Fett. Boba Fett's got a bounty on his head, partially because of that, or kind of sort of because of that. So there is that, which means that pretty much a lot of people know that Han is kind of weak. Find out in the War of the Bounty Hunters issue #1, which I think came out like last week or week before last, whichever it was, who stole Han's body, or who stole frozen Han. And in this issue, the rebellion and other people, well, we found out in other books that a lot of people have gotten invitations to this party that is being thrown by the Crimson Dawn. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, and do you remember your Star Wars movie history? Yes, the same Crimson Dawn that shows up in Han Solo's solo movie. And spoiler alert, well, not spoiler alert, because I still won't say, but someone connected to Han's past and connected to the Crimson Dawn is responsible for taking his body. And leading up to this here issue, or actually, well, we've come to find out from that issue that there's a reason why they took the body, because apparently everybody wants this. See, this is the weird part about this whole event, because it's like Han being the major focus of this event is kind of weird. But the fact that, you know what, hey, something happened to Han's body while he was in carbonite makes kind of sort of sense. But the fact that they're putting this much on that is kind of weird. So basically everyone in the galaxy is looking to cash in on that one, Boba Fett's bounty, two, getting Han's body back to Jabba so they can get him in his good graces. And the Crimson Dawn are pretty much using it as leverage to bring themselves back into prominence. Going into this particular issues of Star Wars #14, Leia finds out about this from one Holdo, not yet an admiral. Wait, are you going to read this? I just thought about that.
I mean, you can. I mean,
I'm not gonna go beat for beat, okay. But yeah, I don't want to give away the whole thing either.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, but basically, I did want to mention the fact that Holdo shows up in this book.
Mm-hmm.
A younger version of Holdo from you know her from that last from
Maneuver.
Yes, from
named after her.
Yes, exactly. From what was that middle one? What am I to say? Well, that's the last one. Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, but that
I try not to remember these.
Huh?
I said, and I try not to remember those.
But yeah, from Last Jedi. So yeah, the holdover maneuver like a 87 said. But basically, so Leia finds out about this, and she's like, well, okay, well, we're gonna go and get Han. They get Lando involved, but Lando's also have his other little side things going on in the process, because that's another little side note that's going on in the course of this issue. Another familiar thing from those sequels actually is that them trying to get to the place where this auction or party party is being given. There is a familiar landing that the Falcon ends up doing because of the resistance they meet up kind of trying to get there, and that's pretty much where we leave off at. But yes, there are definitely some reminders in here for the Solo movie, and people, at least very much one or two people that show up in that book in that movie prominently. So they're kind of just bringing all of that back into back into the fold, because everything at this point is canon. With the movies and this, so they're definitely going to be doing some folding in of that stuff into the comic books, and that's oh yes, and another old group from, if you are aware of Star Wars history, the Black Sun also show up and has something to do with that situation. So that's
Won't you come and wash away the rain?
Yep, I usually pretty much go there also. So good on you for that. And that's it for me. It was a fairly decent read. Like I said, the whole conceit of behind War of the Bounty Hunters is still kind of weird to me, because like I said, it's pretty much focusing on Han and Carbonite, to the degree that it's like, is it really that serious? Like, everybody in the galaxy wants Han. Like, I can see the Rebels wanting them, and I can see where Boba Fett wants them back, and maybe the Bounty Hunters is trying to get something off of that. But they made it like, oh no, the Empire wants them too, and but just based on the events of Darth Vader's book, and I think Afra's got a part in here. So not in here, but Afra and Sanas Staros is going to show up in this event. Because they had their issue of Dr. Afra that I think they well, we find out in here that everybody pretty much knows, so we definitely know that they know about it. So like I said, going into the event, then that's going to be that. So I'm pretty sure they're probably going to try to crash the party as well. It's just going to be a whole Star Wars love fest. But that's pretty much it for me, and that's the only other book that I had that we hadn't already talked about.
Cool.
Clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
And we have a couple. We have.
A whole lot of superstars.
Thank you. I was hoping you was gonna pick that up. Thank you.
Kid.
From Dirt, we have a click of the week of the Flash 771, and I don't think he said anything.
Oh, he did.
Well, he just said the redemption of Wally West, but that was about it. I mean, usually he would have a little bit more on that,
right. But that's that I think that is in the nutshell, because I don't think you have the cover queued up, but the cover does make clear reference to what was that miniseries called? The one that where Wally West, the one with the mystery.
Where they was at the rehabilitation center.
What was that called?
I don't even remember. I know it was I know Sanctuary was the place.
The cover makes a clear reference to Welcome to Sanctuary. So,
but I don't remember the I don't even remember that anymore. I blocked that whole thing out of my mind.
Right, so it's interesting. I'd flipped through this, and I was very intrigued by all of the guest stars and all of the different costuming. That you see in here, and it looks like it's kind of an artist jam book, because it looks like there's a few art styles sprinkled in here. I see Brian Hitch in here also, so it did pique my interest, and I'm glad that PC _Dirt read this. So I'm gonna just take a quick peek at it and see what's going on.
Okay,
it always the problem with reading certain parts of DC is that they reference characters I have little to no connection with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this? Why am I supposed to care? I try to muddle my way through and see. I'm looking here are the credits. Yeah, so it's Jeremy Adams writing, and there's Kevin McGuire, Howard Porter, Bharat Pekmeti, Brian Hitch. There's a bunch of artists on this. No kidding.
Okay. Cool.
Dang. Yeah, totally a jam thing. So.
And then from Tim, we got Planet Size X-Men #1.
Yeah, that's a candidate for me.
Yep, same here. In fact, I totally forgot to mention my other potential clicks of the week. Planet Size is definitely one of them. New Mutants is definitely one of them. Static actually is kind of one of them as well. For potentials. Do you have yours or no? Are you still?
Yeah, because I was really deciding between two books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was Planet Size X-Men #1 or FF number 33, and I think I'm gonna go with FF number 33 just because, and I'm not spoiling it because I know Roddykat's gonna look at it. It was just really well done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just really, really well done. It's a comic book wedding, so you know stuff is gonna pop off at some point during it. It's just an old trope. So, but what happens and how it's revealed is just a shocker, you know, and it's just played really well.
Yeah, and it's actually, now that I think about it, might probably be one of the first or few quote unquote villain weddings that gets featured in a book. That I'm fairly certain we don't ever get to see that. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously Doom, you know, not necessarily a villain as much anymore, but he, you know, but still, he can get in and
You'll get a kick out of it. There's even a Secret Wars reference, like the Hickman Secret Wars reference, right at the beginning.
Ooh, okay. If
I mean, it's very subtle. It's so subtle, but
right.
it's, you know, but when you read it, you're like, when did this? Oh, that's when that happened.
Well, I was about to say, if it's something in reference to something in particular, then yeah, I feel like I probably already know, especially having to do with Doom and the FF about that. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Regardless, I think for mine, I'm going to go with, actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with Tim on Planet Size.
Nice.
I did like Static. Static was pretty good. I'm looking to see more of that and more of the other Milestone comics because, like I said, I didn't really don't have the affinity. I did not have as much of affinity, with the exception of like Static, but even then, of the characters. So I'm looking forward to seeing most of that stuff come out. But yeah, and yeah, New Mutants also, like I said, was pretty good this week. But yeah, definitely Planet Size X-Men #1. And with that, we can go to the comic. I mean, excuse me. Blah, 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 blah. We can go to the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we start off, as we do about this time, with the cinematic news. We're going to try to cruise through some of this. Camrus Johnson as Batwing revealed in Batwoman Season 2 photo. So Camrus Johnson plays, I believe, plays Luke Fox, obviously son of Lucius Fox in the canon, and also Batwing in the comics. So he finally gets his, I guess he's going to get his Batwing suit, as we see from the Batwoman Twitter account. See him suited up as in the suit. So cool. We kind of figured it was going to happen at some point, but wasn't sure. I haven't been watching that show, but I do want to peep it out. Next up.
All right. Next up, Green Lantern's daughter arrives in first season 2 trailer for DC Stargirl. Entertainment Weekly has an exclusive first look at the season 2 trailer of DC Stargirl, and while the rest of the new JSA wants to hang up their masks and capes now that the Injustice Society of America has seemingly been defeated, the trailer reveals Courtney, aka Stargirl, isn't so sure that's the right call, even if that means messing up at school. Apparently, blah blah blah. New threats like Eclipso are coming up, and the Shade are coming up, and old ones like Cindy, aka Shiv, are about to cause the new JSA some major problems. So it's a good thing they're about to get an influx of new heroes to the team, like Green Lantern's daughter. Is that supposed to be Jade?
I don't know, honestly. I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, next up. Wait, who is Jade? Jade is oh, you talking about Jade, the Green Lantern Jade.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Stargirl poster, speaking of, welcomes a classic DC artifact to the Arrowverse. So apparently, an ominous poster for Stargirl's upcoming season 2 sees the Arrowverse debut of the Heart of Darkness, the power source of one of the season's new villains, Eclipso, who will be played by Nick Tarabay, which that name sounds very familiar. And I'm wondering if that's who I think it is. Excuse me, pardon me. Scrolling. Anyway, doesn't matter. Shared on one of DC's Stargirl's Twitter accounts. The poster sees the Heart of Darkness atop the cosmic staff as a surge of energy emanates from it, travels down towards Stargirl's hand. Also, the series title card and season 2 premiere date can be seen next to the staff above. Above and below the poster are tweets that respectively read, "When you see it, don't show your fear." And you can see the poster right there. The premiere date is 8/10/21, so August 10th. So there you go. Next.
Alrighty, next up, DC requested Harley Quinn animated series remove a scene of oral sex between Batman and Catwoman. It would have been funny if they had said Batwoman and Catwoman. The HBO Max animated Harley Quinn series has been a hit with wide audiences, thanks in large part to its irreverent take on the heroes and villains of the DC universe. I still haven't watched it yet, but I do plan on it.
Mm-hmm.
And for its progressive take on the relationship between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. It seems there's a line as to how far the show is able to take some things, though, as it was revealed this week that DC Comics at one point requested the show remove a scene in which Batman performs oral sex on Catwoman. In a Variety article about TV shows like Harley Quinn and WandaVision that subvert the superhero genre, Harley Quinn producer Justin Halpern spoke about the relative freedom he and co-producer Patrick Schumacher experienced while working on the show, and that particular notable instance in which DC objected on Batman, that Batman be depicted as going down on Catwoman. That's funny.
When I tell you this blew up on Twitter,
it did. I saw it on my Twitter,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not on Twitter that often, and I definitely saw it.
Yeah, for days. I think it's probably still going. So here, and I said this on Twitter. I'm like, how many of these people were actually going to watch this, or actually was watching this show? And I'm pretty sure the numbers are not, I'm like, no, or they just like anything else that happens on Twitter per day, just wanted something to go crazy about.
I mean, I was about to say, it definitely popped up in the binge mode group. So yeah. I saw posts on it on Facebook. I was like, wow, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, like it has been a thing for the last couple of days, and it's kind of ridiculous. I'm sitting here like, I'm like, to be fair, it's a fun distraction, but also like, but the some of the people, saying certain things about, I'm like, like obviously they kept it to the more lewd sense of it, but at the same time there are some people who are like, well, DC's this, that, and other, blah 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 blah, and of course there's it's a cartoon, so it's kids, but it's actually an adult cartoon. That that whole thing has shown up. I'm like, y'all need to hush. So it's just been kind of all over the place, but there's been some pretty good jokes out of it. That being said.
Yeah.
And as someone, I remember seeing somebody notice, like, there's a disturbing lack of Bill Finger jokes in this whole discourse. I was like, you know what? That's pretty good. Certain people will get that one, but
yeah.
But that's pretty good. Next up, though, so yeah, it's probably still out there doing a number on your Twitter feed. Zatanna movie writer is excited to craft crazy sequences and fights. Emerald Fennell is excited to script more exciting superhero action sequences in the forthcoming Zatanna movie. Speaking with Empire for the magazine's British New Wave issue, the Academy Award-winning writer and director of Promising Young Women and Killing Eve discussed her DC superhero project, which she is still in the early stages of writing. Quote, there are a lot of things about her that felt like they could really be really interesting, really interesting, Fennell said. And it'll be an opportunity to make something really quite dark. And that appeals to me to make something big and scary. I love that stuff. So cool. Actually, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, going back to the last issue, the last article. The article that was cited is also in the show notes in the clickbait section if you want to go read that. So check that out. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. Sorry, folks, I'm scrolling. Aquaman 2 is titled The Lost Kingdom of the Crystal. I mean, the upcoming project stars Jason Momoa as Aquaman again, with Amber Heard again expected to return as Mira, and Patrick Wilson back as Orm. The original Aquaman, released in December 2018, grossed more than $1 billion, making it the only DC film to reach that number outside of the Dark Knight trilogy. Wan is producing alongside Peter Safran, with David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick returning to pen the script. So yeah, no crystal skulls here, folks. It's just titled The Lost Kingdom. And if you thought that The Lost Kingdom would be Atlantis, and we already found Atlantis, so what the hell are they talking about? It may very well be the Lost Kingdom that they're referring to, maybe where Mira comes from.
Yeah. Next up, the Flash director teases the superhero's new suit and logo. Flash director Andy Muschietti has shared a new photo from the upcoming film, and this one teases the new suit and logo for that fools Flash. The photo offers a close-up look, revealing the details of the new suit design. It looks like Barry Allen's new Flash suit is wired with some sort of circuitry that is centralized around the lightning insignia on his chest. It's going to be interesting to see what purpose that will serve, if any, I will say. So there you go. If you're watching the video version of this here program, and you should sometime, you can see the tweet where Andy Muschietti shows the logo. So there you go. Next.
Sorry, I was just checking something out on Twitter. The Flash film is rumored to include a Grant Gustin appearance. So the Illuminati reported that Gustin is going to cameo in the film as his version of the Flash from the CW series, though the capacity of this cameo is not yet known. Gustin will also join the likes of Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's version of Batman, and Sasha Calle's take on Supergirl, as well as Ezra Miller's version of the titular superhero.
I mean, it would make sense since Ezra Miller did also cameo on the Flash TV show that it should go the other way around.
Right.
So, or it could go the other way around, I should say. Some would argue that maybe let Grant Gustin take on the role in the movie and get rid of Ezra Miller. Maybe. But anyway, next up.
I was going to say, Roddykat used to have just a passing dislike for Ezra Miller, but apparently, shots fired.
Oh, it's not so much passing. The Suicide
it used to not be as vitriolic.
I hit it a little bit better. The Suicide Squad runtime and post-credit scene confirmed by director James Gunn. The Suicide Squad runtime has been locked in. Taken to social media, director James Gunn revealed that DC's latest movie will run 2 hours and 12 minutes, or 132 minutes if you're that kind of person. Gunn added, I wrote, filmed, and edited the best movie I could, and it ended up at this length. No one ever planned for it to be this long. Which, honestly, there's a lot of superhero movies specifically, or, that are this long. As a matter of fact, this article goes the length and says some of the runtimes of recent movies. Like Wonder Woman 1984 is 151 minutes, Aquaman is 143 minutes, Shazam is 132 minutes, which I think that's probably the shortest movie lately. And I've still yet to see this movie, actually. Shazam. And although it just seemed like it's longer, the original Suicide Squad movie was only 123 minutes. Wait, did I say an hour and a half? I didn't mean that. for that 132 minutes. I was anyway. Regardless, that Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad movie, seemed way longer, but that's only because it wasn't great. Next up,
so we're gonna skip a bunch of this Loki news we've already covered.
Yep. So the Disney Plus one.
So Disney Plus original series are now set to be released on Wednesdays, not Fridays. So from July, right? So this is apparently after Bad Batch.
Well, yeah, because Bad Batch is already ongoing.
Right, on Fridays. Oh, I see. So from July, all of Disney Plus's global original series will be released on Wednesdays rather than Fridays, according to The Hollywood Reporter. The change has reportedly been made to give the service's increasing number of original TV shows more space in the schedule, while the service's original movies will continue to release on Fridays. I see.
Right.
So Disney has announced a number of new premiere dates following the change, with most now releasing a few days later than previously planned. Monsters, Inc., spin-off Monsters at Work, for example, is not going to release on Wednesday, July 7th rather than the 2nd, while Turner and Hooch has shifted from July 16th to Wednesday, July 21st. A couple are going to release earlier. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Boop. Thor 4 is set. Wait, let me make sure that's not to take a second. I'm trying to miss something. Yeah. Thor 4 is set for the may reveal a ridiculous but very important Marvel Easter egg. And I'm pretty sure this may tickle one Agent 70, in that it's the Belt of Might. Okay, crickets. It says here.
It's cool.
Huh?
It's cool.
So
it's
yeah,
cool.
but
I mean, because the what's funny about it is, well, I was gonna let you finish, but the Belt of Might has always had kind of like a weird place in the Thor Marvel mythos, because he's almost always depicted as being like super duper strong without it,
right?
And only in like a few pages of like the Simonson run does he actually have to put it on to have to duke it out with somebody.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can tell you that he had to fight Curse, I think, and he had to put it on.
Gotcha. So yeah, but it says here, Thor: Love and Thunder is wrapped, and there was a behind-the-scene photo that was shared by Taika Waititi on Instagram, showing Hemsworth wearing what may as well be the MCU's answer to the T-belt. And if you're watching the video, you can see the picture from Taika Waititi's Instagram account, and Hemsworth still looking kind of real cut. Although it just looks more like a belt buckle than the one,
Right. It's not like a golden belt.
Exactly, not like the one you see in this image right here with the wings and the whatever. But yeah, it just looks like a belt buckle with a T on it, and it's barely noticeable because it's a black and white photo.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say that particular photo of Hemsworth makes you, just makes you think, wow, that dude spent a lot of time in the gym.
Right. But next up.
Because he built himself up to be this big because he's playing Hulk Hogan in that movie anyway.
True.
So, it's almost like he doesn't have to kind of raise his training regimen to do one or the other.
Right, but also it's kind of funny because when I think he did one of the previous films, he was also doing Star Trek. I think he did Thor first, and I think Star Trek he might have been doing right. So which was a very different look for him.
Right.
And obviously he was in Star Trek clothes, and was a little more covered up than that. So he was kind of looking. They had him like kind of looking a little bit more, or a little less built than a little trimmer than he did in Thor around the same time. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, that's that. Next up, that's you.
1 second. A crew t-shirt from the recently wrapped filming of Thor: Love and Thunder apparently has offered up our best look at the design of Natalie Portman's Jane Foster Thor, and the costume appears to be very comic book accurate. The Twitter account Thor: Love and Thunder News shared the alleged design of Jane Foster's Thor, and it should look quite familiar to comic book fans.
Yep.
It was if it turns out to be true, it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And it's a good looking shirt. So hey, there you go. Like it's the well amount of worn on it too. um, Next up though, Paul Rudd begins filming Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Apparently, while many productions have more or less have been more used to delays recently. Excuse me. It seems that one film that is ahead of schedule is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's gonna run wild on you, brother. Star of the series, Paul Rudd, has revealed that he's currently in London to film the sequel, which wasn't meant to kick off shooting until next month. With the film not due out until February 2023, they are certainly making sure that they get a head start on the latest Marvel sequel to roll camera. So there you go. Next.
And pardon me, I was just being very annoyed at the Brooklyn Nets losing to the
Of
Milwaukee
course.
Bucks, and now we're going to Game 7 in basketball. I mean, this happened a little while ago, but I'm looking at some of the. I made a point of not distracting myself during the show, so now I'm gonna have to watch. Now we're gonna have to put it all on the line in Game 7 on Saturday, folks.
I was about to say, and that worked out well because he's still kind of distracted.
Well, not as much as I was. I think it was last week when I was like watching the game as we were
Right.
going, as we were as we were doing the show.
Mhm.
Playoff basketball, folks. All right.
Catch it.
So you did the Quantumania. So the rumor is Ahsoka series is going to feature another key Clone Wars character. So according to Murphy's Multiverse, Barriss Offee will appear on Ahsoka, the upcoming Disney Plus spinoff of The Mandalorian, focused on Rosario Dawson's character and her hunt for Grand Admiral Thrawn. The series will pick up threads from Ahsoka's time on the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian, and Barriss is a fitting addition given her key role in the protagonist's life.
Yes.
No official plot or casting details are known yet about Barriss and her potential appearance. And she's appeared in other things, so we've seen her in other places other than on Clone Wars.
So I legit wasn't sure if she was still around or not. I still haven't watched season 7. And the last time I remember seeing her, was in the Clone Wars. She definitely was around. But I, given how Order 66 kind of took a whole bunch of folks out, you wasn't sure where folks are. So this was kind of a surprise to me because I thought she might have had gotten either taken out or become an Inquisitor, or maybe she still could. There's nothing saying if she's showing up. We don't know in what capacity. So anyway, next up, speaking of Star Wars reveals date of anime anthology's footage debut. Lucasfilm's Star Wars Visions is headed to Anime Expo, which, by the way, folks, there was about to be a whole lot more anime news this week than what there actually is. So look out for that next week. The anime anthology series will debut its first look footage during a panel at the event, per an initial official announcement. Described as Star Wars through the lens of the world's best anime creators and storytellers, the Visions sneak peek promises to leave you excited for this all new vision of the galaxy far, far away, quote unquote. So this is I'm pretty sure this is one of those projects that came out during the Investors Day. So this is definitely a known quantity. So yeah, there is that. Anime Expo's Star Wars Visions panel will take place on Saturday, July 3rd at 3 p.m. Pacific time. The panel will be hosted by Chastity Vincenzo, I think she's still with IGN. I don't know. Or maybe she's gone from there. Actually, I don't know. And feature appearances by Vice President of Franchise Production Lucas Animation Jackie Lopez, along with executive producers Josh Rhimes and James Waugh, and a couple other people. Next
up, what was it, Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Netflix just announced a huge slate of anime series and films. The streaming service announced details of a number of exciting shows, ranging from a horror series with characters designed by Final Fantasy's Yoshitaka Amano to the next chapter in the Gundam franchise to another Godzilla show. Here's what was announced as given to us by The Verge. Opening up the article now. I know that Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway is coming out. Apparently, it is not based upon the actress with the same last name, Anne Hathaway. It's set after Charles Rebellion, and the character's name is Hathaway Noah. So I'm a little bit in and out of the Gundam universe. I have a general idea what's going on. There's a lot to it, though. I actually did watch MSG, MSO8 Team.
Nice.
That was a nice little, was like 10 or 12 episode thing. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
But I did read. What's that?
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I was gonna say I read some of the wikis about the overall story, so I have an idea who like Char is and what's going on. And I feel like maybe I needed to do that and then go back into Wing.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Wing. So here's the thing, because they, as you probably found out by now, the Gundam kind of splits off into a couple of different timelines.
Right.
There's the original timeline, and then there's like the AC, whatever, and that's like usually like Seed and the rest of those other the ones after the or at a certain point. Wing, I think, might be in the other, not the other timeline. Right. So but it's also kind of sort of self-contained. Like most of them are kind of sort of self-contained, except for the original first 2 or 3 or 4. And I think including 8th MS Team series and a couple other little side projects. But yeah, all of those are pretty much in the same universe, and then you got like the other stuff in Universal, Universal Century and AC and all that kind of good madness. It's a lot to Gundam. That's all I say that to say that.
Yeah, pretty much.
As you have found out.
Exactly. Like it's a hard. It's I feel like one of those folks who's like, I want to read Marvel comics. Where do I start? Right. And so I dive in here and there and just trying to figure it out as I go along. The rest of these shows are interesting. One is called the Shaman King or Shaman King. Yeah. Another's called Eden Zero. Another is called Exception. Bright Samurai Soul is another. Make My Day is another. And Godzilla Singular Point is already out in Japan. It is on its way to America. It's available. It will be available globally and in English on June 24th. So I've already gotten a peek at it thanks to the magic of VPNs.
Nice.
Pretending that I am in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Yeah, and I mean, hell, and I'm taking advantage of what else they got. On Japanese
I got a peek at it, so.
Right. Yeah, that Shaman King one, I believe, is a reboot of Shaman King, which they've been doing a couple of. So yeah, because there was already been a Shaman King series. But I'm going to, before I go to the next one, I just want to put this one in here because of that Gundam story. I mean, because of the Gundam part of this. So new Gundam Breaker Battle Log anime and game and Gunpla model series had also been announced. So Bandai Namco Entertainment has announced that Gundam Breaker Battlelog, a new cross-media project that aims to connect the Gundam anime, video games, and plastic models together in a new way. According to Bandai, the goal of its new Gundam Breaker Battlelog project is to, quote-unquote, fuse their digital and physical products together. In order to do that, the company has announced a new series of animated short films, a video game, and a new line of Gunpla model kits. Similar to the 2013 spin-off Gundam Build Fighters, Gundam Breaker Battlelog will feature redesigned versions of mobile suits pulled from other series within the Gundam franchise. And that's a whole nother side thing, because like I just said with the Gundam stuff, like this is a whole other separate kind of universe thing. So yeah. But anyway, that's that. But I'm going to go into the next one, which is watch the first trailer for Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelation, which I believe we said earlier that I Need a Hero from Bonnie Tyler also appears in.
Right.
And I did watch that trailer. It was actually pretty good. I'm like, all right, I'm actually more curious about this than I was. But our first look at Kevin Smith's revival of He-Man is here. Netflix debuted its first trailer for Masters of the Universe Revelation, which will hit the streaming service on July 23rd. Unlike She-Ra and the Princess of Power, which also streams on Netflix, the new He-Man series isn't a reboot of the classic cartoon. Instead, it's a continuation, which we talked about last week. That Kevin Smith said, yeah, they're not trying to redo it; they're just gonna keep on doing the thing. Right. Which picks up right after the original show ended in 1985, with the excellent addition of Mark Hamill as Skeletor. There you go, boom! You couldn't get a better Skeletor than that. Well, you probably could, but hey, what else is he doing right now, right? Right. And of course you get a summary from Kevin Smith about the show, which I think partially is kind of what we talked about last week, so it doesn't necessarily have to retread on that. Next up.
All right. Next up.
So excited.
Discotech Media has announced. What's that?
So so excited Agent 70 is.
Yeah. Discotech Media has announced its lineup of upcoming classic anime Blu-ray releases, which includes a number of previously out of print and hard to find titles. The company announced via live stream and Twitter that it is re-releasing several anime over the next several years. That have not been available for several years, that is. Headlining the new announcements is a brand new re-release of the original Shaman King anime from 2001. In addition to Project Echo and Lupin the Third.
Yay! But also, and this is kind of going. So we talked about last week where there was the Fatal Fury remakes. This is also from that. That was also in this. But I didn't see this before I saw that. So yeah, there's a bunch of classic stuff, including I think they're redoing Robotech, which I believe also is may or may not be on Agent 70's anime preview. I can't remember.
What's that?
Robotech.
The original Robotech?
Yeah.
That's actually you can stream that though.
I know, but it sounds like they're redoing that in these re-releases. So I don't know, that may or may not be something you might want to wait on. Or if you want to take your chances with the Homie Gold shit.
Yeah, I was about to say I've seen a little bit of Robotech here and there, and I mean Min-May and singing and So
yeah.
You know, it's one of those we want to see the robots fight already, damn it, type of things.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so that's just the thing. Like I said, there's more. They're putting some more, which is cool. I like the fact that they're doing. Especially, I enjoyed Project Echo and a couple of those ones that they're talking about. Next up, though, Lord of the Rings anime focuses on Rohan. Coming to theaters from Ghost in the Shell's Kenji Kamiyama. Lords of the Rings. I feel like we talked about this here already, but I'm not entirely sure. Lord of the Rings anime film from Kenji Kamiyama and Warner Brothers Animation is on the way, and its story will focus on the King of Rohan. The movie is called Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim.
We've mentioned it just in passing.
Yeah,
we've mentioned the title, War of the Rohirrim.
Gotcha. And expands the untold story behind the fortress of Helm's Deep, delving into the life and blood-soaked times of one of Middle-earth's most legendary figures, the mighty King of Rohan, Helm Hammerhand. So that's cool.
And so that probably deals with like how Helm's Deep is built.
Probably.
Because whatchamacallit, that horn is like the horn of Helm Hammerhand.
Right.
The one that Gimli blows on when the sun comes up.
Right. And yes, if you've not noticed, Agent 70 is a big Lord of the Rings fan. It doesn't have a date.
I was about to say, if you're listening to this or watching this, you probably are, if not a big fan, you are you have more than a passing familiarity with Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Or The Hobbit.
Sure.
and or the Silmarillion, but I don't know too much about that.
Yeah,
so.
no, I've absolutely positively have not gone that far. That's getting way into the weeds. Like if
I
you
was about to
say
say, and hence the and or.
right, because yeah, if you read sat here and actively said you've read the Silmarillion, like yeah, I can't talk to you for too long because you're gonna give me some in and outs that I probably don't care much about. Anyway, next up.
Alrighty. New Mortal Kombat Legends animated movie is arriving later this summer. Warner Brothers is making a sequel to last year's Mortal Kombat Legends, Scorpion's Revenge. The studio has announced Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms, which will arrive this summer. The follow-up will see the return of Joel McHale as Johnny Cage and Jennifer Carpenter as Sonya Blade. The cast will also have some familiar voices along for the ride, along with some new ones as well. Okay.
Apparently, rest in peace to Herb Tarlick. AKA Frank Bonner from WKRP in Cincinnati, because I just saw on that article that dude had died.
Wow.
But if you're of a certain vintage, you know who that is. If not, you don't care. Spawn's Sam and Twitch are getting their own TV show. So Spawn's universe is expanding beyond the comics into television again. Spawn creator Todd McFarlane is teaming up with the production house Whip, the studio behind HBO's hit Kate Winslet starring Mayor of Easttown series, which I've been hearing something about, I think, to create a television series based on the supernatural detective comic Sam and Twitch. Jason Smilovich and Todd Katzberg, showrunners of the epic series Condor and writers of the upcoming Jennifer Lopez Netflix film The Cipher, will adapt the project and serve as executive producers, as will McFarlane for McFarlane Films and Whips, I'm assuming that's Whips or Wipes, Paul Lee and Mark Roybal. So yeah, the announcement is just the latest in a series of headline grabbing moves by McFarlane in recent months. As he tells IGN, it won't be the last. So look forward to that. Next
up, the Bowery King will return in John Wick 4. Emmy-winning actor Lawrence Fishburne confirmed that his character, the Bowery King, is not yet done with John Wick and all the trouble that he brings during an interview with Collider. I should be going to Berlin within another couple of months or so, he stated, confirming that he'll be on set soon to film the hit action franchise's fourth installment. That is no surprise if you watched John Wick 3 Parabellum.
True, but as we have seen from those Godzilla films, they have pretty much put one person in a thing and just totally make them disappear the next one.
So. Yeah, but these John Wick films seem to have their continuity set.
I mean, you're right.
You know, in terms of their actors.
True. But like I said, yeah, you're right. This should be a no doubt, but at the same time, like I said, yeah, just stranger things have happened.
I understand, but it's apples and oranges, I think, when it comes to Godzilla versus John Wick.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, but it is what it is. Matrix 4's Jessica Henwick, speaking of Matrix tie-ins, Jessica Henwick, which I don't think I knew if she was in that or not, joins Daniel Craig in sequel to Knives Out, so Knives Out 2. So if you're adding to the list of everybody, your grocery list of everybody that is in that movie, she is now amongst them.
Did you watch the first Knives Out?
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was very, very entertaining.
It's even kind of one of those things that's like, okay, even when it gets to the point of the reveal, like, okay, well, you knew it, but you didn't recognize it as what you look like. They did a pretty good job as kind of obfuscating, unless you're one of those people who's like, well, I knew it from when the character first came on the screen, type situation. But it was good. I enjoyed it. You should, if folks like a good murder mystery. I think the one thing I didn't like, I might not have liked Daniel Craig's character and Latif's character for some strange reasons. But everything else kind of surrounding it. Huh?
The detectives?
Yeah. Because and I think for Daniel Craig, it's probably more like his accent than anything else.
Well, he was playing at an accent,
right? but it was kind of like he was like a Southern Clouseau almost in a way, and it was
kind of like a foghorn leghorn Clouseau.
also that, yes. And it was like, this is kind of off-putting.
I was about to say, I know Roddykat will take that more personally, being from a certain part of the country, whereas I definitely took it as a play on Foghorn Leghorn being a detective.
Yeah. There is that. There is that, but it was like, oh God, man, come on, you let up on it. And as far as Latif's character, who's another they probably could have given him a little bit more to do than what they had him to do. It was basically anyway.
I was just gonna say, win a couple of I do declares.
He was like one step short of.
So,
but anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of people. Like, if you don't know, I'll just run off this real quick. Like, I don't know why I did. No, I'm sure. Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, yay, Leslie Odom Jr., Kate Hudson, Madeline Klein, and Edward Norton are all in that cast. And I feel like there's some people missing, but outside of obviously, Daniel Craig and maybe Lakeith Stanfield. I'm not sure if he's coming back for that or not. I think so. Anyway, there's that. Next up,
this is mine, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Paramount Plus, the streaming service from Viacom CBS, just earlier announced announced the stellar lineup of voice talent behind the 6 young alien Starship crew members featured in its upcoming all-new animated kids series Star Trek Prodigy. First look images of the series were also revealed. I gotta open this now because the voice cast is not in our little notes.
Nope, but if you're watching the video, you can see the image where they're all there.
All right, so you have Ella Purnell as Gwen, Brett Gray as Dal, Jason Mantzoukas as Jankum D. Bradley Baker, not playing, a clone apparently, as Murph, Angus Emery as Zero, and Riley Alazraki as Roktak. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess when does this come out? Don't know. Or at some point. Next up, a new Picard season 2 trailer confirms the return of a classic Trek villain. No surprise, Q is showing up in Picard season 2. I haven't seen this trailer yet, but I believe from one still I saw, it's looking kind of older, but not surprised there because he is getting kind of older. So yeah, there you go. And apparently this came out on National Captain Picard Day, which I guess is a real thing. So next up.
All right, so next up, Fast 9 star Sung Kang teases his Obi-Wan Kenobi character has, quote, sexual deliciousness, unquote. So Sung Kang is in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and says that the Fast 9 star sat down with, what company is this? What article? Where's this article from?
I mean, CBR. I mean, comicbook.com's got the article. Yeah.
Right. All right. So, to talk about the upcoming blockbuster, things got a bit strange when she asked what role he was playing in the Disney Plus show Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all he could offer was that line about sexual deliciousness. If that admission has you massively confused, you are not alone. It's likely that Sung Kang has been sworn to secrecy, like most people involved with these large productions. Let's see. Yeah, and then the rest of the article, he talks about his happiness to learn about how the fans reacted to his character in the Fast and Furious franchise and the whole hashtag Justice for Han movement.
Right.
There's one thing I just added. It's just another casting thing for John Wick 4. I don't know if you see it on your sheet.
Yes. I was about to do that now, actually. John Wick 4 adds Mortal Kombat Scorpion. Oh yeah, I think I did see this, but I didn't pull it. So I'm glad you did that. John Wick 4 adds Mortal Kombat Scorpion, Hiroyuki Sanada. So this was reported by Deadline. Sonata is the latest actor to join the sequel, though his role remains unknown at the time. Chad Stahelski, the director of all the John Wick movies, said of the casting, "Having long admired Hiroyuki as both actor and action performer, I'm thrilled and honored to welcome him to the John Wick family, and it doesn't help that Mortal Kombat just came out."
Right.
Filming is expected to begin this summer. So there you go. And that ends the cinematic section of the news, and we push over to the comic book news.
Yes, we are transitioning over to the comic book news, but before that, I just wanted to let people know a couple things. One, we are rapidly approaching a couple of these movies coming out. Some of these big movies starting to come out as a result of some of the COVID lockdown starting to ease up a little bit. We are less than a week away or from Fast 9 and Black Widow. There are already some early critic reactions coming out, so I expect to see a lot of Black Widow stuff coming out in the next few weeks ahead of the July 9th release.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Marvel marks Pride Month with Black Cat's first same-sex kiss, and this is spoiler alert for Black Cat number 7, which came out last week?
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago? Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think this is a book that you hadn't read, and I made sure not to spoil that part.
Correct. And yeah, I couldn't remember if it was last week or week before last. But so basically it says here that it kind of goes through basically her and Odessa Drake have a kiss in this issue, I guess. And we already knew that they had a history with each other from the whole run of the books of her book. So that's, I guess, less of a surprise. We didn't know the extent of the relationship.
Right. We don't know. Yeah, but there's so much about this we do not know.
Right.
We understood that they were rivals in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they're going to have plenty of room to explore their mutual shared story that Jed MacKay is going to be essentially creating from scratch. So it's going to be interesting. But this was a pretty big surprise to myself, as I've been reading Black Cat since they relaunched, since they launched her solo books for the last several years.
Right, same.
And this was a bit of a surprise to me, but it's not gigantic where it's like, well, that's out of character, because Black Cat has always been very much a seductress, and that's how they played her, and it's not a surprise that it would go that she would play both ways, as it were.
Right. Yeah, and according to this article,
I was about to say Black Cat came out June 2nd.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so, and this article kind of mentions a reference to 2020's Black Cat number 10, in which an old friend of Felicia's, talking about an old friend of Felicia's named Tamara Blake, and the two were holding hands under the table in a romantic moment, meaning that there's been shades of this in the past. So yeah, there you go. Not that big of a surprise for Felicia, but yeah, there it is. Next up, So that's you.
Is it me?
Yep.
Okay, my apologies. Scrolling. That's what I get for looking up when that Black Cat issue came out. Alrighty. The Marvel Universe descends into chaos in the Darkhold, Alpha number 1. So this is one of those books that was delayed as a result of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The wait is over. After months of speculation, the highly anticipated Darkhold saga will begin this September. The new Marvel Comics epic will kick off in Darkhold Alpha number 1 by Steve Orlando and extraordinary artist Clan Torme. I've actually never heard of this artist, so you gotta help me out here, folks. In a story that will delight and terrify, the infamous Darkhold text has resurfaced, and the Scarlet Witch is the only hero who can prevent the dreadful havoc it's set to unleash. Folks are wondering whether or not this may tie into the death of Doctor Strange.
And all signs point to possibly. And actually, it's Cian Torme, and I do, yeah, in Justice Year Zero, I do remember.
Oh, Cian. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
The
it's
font
kind of hard to
is
see
tiny,
on that.
folks.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to see with that
the
type on
font
it.
is tiny. I'm reading it from far away, and it looks like an L.
Yeah, because I thought that same thing too until I like looked into it. Yeah, so that wouldn't trust me. That's not just you. Like that was I noticed that too. But yeah, so that's the thing. Peach Momoko reveals third chapter of Demon Days story for Marvel Comics. Peach Momoko's Demon Days series blew whoever wrote this article away with Demon Days X-Men, and they can't wait to read the second entry, Demon Days Mariko, this month. Now Marvel Comics has revealed the third chapter in the series, Demon Days Cursed Web, in which will feature a new take on Ghost Spider, Mystique, and Sabretooth. And the article's writer loves the way that Momoko blends the Marvel characters with Japanese folklore, and the art is to them phenomenal. So cool. It will go available to read on September 1st of this year. Next.
All right, next up, we're going to skip this story because we talked about it when we talked about Planet Size X-Men #1 and move on to something I just mentioned. The Scarlet Witch seems poised to be Marvel's next Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange is going to die again. Such is the life and the deaths of Marvel and DC superheroes and villains, where departing the mortal plane is almost always just a temporary layover. But Marvel's newly announced 5-issue series that launches in September, The Death of Doctor Strange, does have an interesting wrinkle worth a closer look. The series will likely conclude in January, just 2 months before Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange returns to the MCU in March 20. God, that's going to be out in March?
Mm-hmm.
March 25th, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Crazy. Yeah, also I read the article writer's name, and I think Michael Dorn is writing for this website. What is going on here? But that's not it. Why Marvel's Guardians? As a matter of fact, I'm going to take one, two. I'm going to take these next, let's say 3, 4. How about that?
Oh, the video game ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. And while I set that up real quick, I think there we go. First one is why Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is a single player game. So E3 just happened this past week, and there was some a lot of video game announcements. One of which being Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy video game, which was announced by Square Enix, and they showed some gameplay footage. This article pretty much well, there's also been a couple of articles, but I just pulled this one because apparently this new game will not have live service on it with it, and it's just a single player game. That's the weird part about this, because you are playing as Star-Lord, and the rest of the Guardians are there, and you can do like little tune-up moves for them, but you can't switch to the other Guardian members. That's the weird part about that to me, because yeah, because like you could do like almost Marvel Ultimate Alliance style team up attacks or setup attacks with them. You just can't switch to them.
That's unfortunate.
Huh?
I said that's unfortunate.
Yeah, kinda, because it's like, well, wait, what's the point in having all of these here if you can't switch to them? Like, there might be somebody who would play Star-Lord the whole time. I don't know that many people who would be that person.
Yeah, but you get to take advantage of the first person shooter aspect.
It's third person, but yeah. Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean, like in terms of seeing it from the shooter's perspective.
Right. Yeah. But that's kind of crazy. So yeah, so apparently they revealed the team behind it revealed why they decided to make it a single player game to emphasize the team dynamic in the story, which that sentence right there doesn't make any more sense. That's what led us to actually make it a single player game, which, is not necessarily what you would expect. Let's see. How do we put that tension in the team and the fact that they're so defined by the fact that they're together? This bunch of misfits just defying the odds. Yeah. Sure. Let me see. Yeah, it says when you're part of the team, you don't control the team, you suffer the team. Sometimes you influence the team. Sometimes the two you will think alike and will sway you in a certain direction. That feels rich for the Guardians of the Galaxy. That feels like a misstep to me, but which it is what it is. So yeah, like I said, they showed some gameplay footage of it, and they showed you kind of doing these little setup team, and there was a lot of chatter, like more than probably should. I hope they toned down. Like yeah, the Guardians can get chatty, and there's definitely they're taking a little bit more inspiration from the MCU, with the exception of because just like any of the other Marvel games of recently, they don't look like the characters. They don't look like the MCU characters rather, and they don't look like the comic book characters. So these are pretty much wholly newly faced versions of the Guardians team. It's also being written by Dan Abnett actually. So
Interesting.
yeah, so somebody would know a thing or two about the Guardians, especially this version of the Guardians. So I have faith on that part. But yeah, some the choice of it being a single plane that you can't swap to is kind of a thing. But the game is going to come out October 26th of this year on all platforms. So there you go. Next up though on that oh no. Okay.
Roddykat's in his bag right now talking about all these video games. I'm just gonna like sit back and relax.
Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy will have no DLC or transactions, which is kind of basically saying, reiterating what I'm saying about not being a live service. So that's actually good news. I mean, I think they said they are going to do some little DLC, but not like paid DLC. So there were it says here there'll be a few unlockable costumes. So sounds like there's not going to be DLC or microtransactions like Marvel's Avengers had a whole lot of. But yeah, at least there'll be a couple of things here. There'll be some unlockable stuff like Marvel's Spider-Man game did, and the Miles Morales game. Well, and the Marvel's Avengers also had. But speaking of Marvel's Avengers, the Black Panther fights Claw for Wakanda in Marvel's Avengers expansion trailer. So that was another thing that came out during E3. It's a decent looking trailer. You can check it out. And the trailer is set to Hana Bam's Make Way for the King, pits the King of Uganda against his arch nemesis Ulysses Claw, aka Claw, who makes his physical debut after his involvement was teased in War for Wakanda's reveal trailer. The expansion follows Black Panther on his mission to defend Wakanda from Claw, who plans to, say it with me, steal the nation's vibranium for his own nefarious purposes.
Yay!
I know, right? The good news about this though is going to be a free expansion. I remember them saying during the course of this, so that's good. I'm not sure when it's going to release. Oh, slated to launch this August. So there you go. Yeah, so there you go. They're still supporting that game. Now, well, yeah, I just say I'm gonna take this one. Last in the video game comic book news, give into Purgatory's bloodlust on Marvel's Contest of Champions. The bloodlines have been drawn. Give into her bloodlust. Claims the souls of your foes and become champion as Purgatory enters the contest in Kablam's Marvel's Contest of Champions. Purgatory is a twisted demonic creature from an alternate timeline where Morningstar was able to defeat Guillotine and steal her sword back. With the blade finally back in her hands, the demonic presence within it overwhelmed Queen Hassan and convinced her to slay Guillotine. Doing so corrupted her both body and soul, transforming her into Purgatory and sending her on a bloodthirsty rampage unlike any seen in a millennia. I think this is a new fan-made character, but I am not entirely sure because I haven't played that game in quite a while. But yeah, it's coming out soon if it's not out already. Next up, though, getting back on track.
Next up, Hasbro. Right, Hasbro has launched a Star Wars: The Vintage Collection 4-pack that includes 3.75-inch figures of clone troopers Captain Rex, Captain Gray, Captain Ballast, and an elite squad trooper. The set was released as part of their collection inspired by the Star Wars: The Bad Batch series on Disney+. When pre-orders commenced, it was is set to run for $59.99 with a release date set for the fall.
Yep, cool. And you can see the figures if you're watching the video. And I know there's been some other stuff that we may or may not have been talking about in passing. Actually, wait, we do have still another video game move. Should have moved this over. Pokemon Go creator Niantic is making a Transformers game. So basically, it's going to be, Pokemon and Transformers AR. Let's see. The game developer announced its next project, a location-based augmented reality game called Transformers Heavy Metal. The game is expected to launch globally this year with a soft launch in select countries soon, quote unquote. Niantic says that it's partnered with Seattle-based studio Very Very Spaceship, which will be leading development. And it says here, in Transformers Heavy Metal, players will join the Guardian Network, I almost say Gundam, a group of humans who have banded together with the Autobots in a war against the Decepticons. As a Guardian, players will uncover hidden regions across Earth to find resources and battle Decepticons in turn-based battles, either solo or with friends. And it definitely looks very much like Pokemon Go. So, cool. Next up,
Power Rangers fans saw a lot of pink during Hasbro's most recent Fan First Friday. There's going to be another one tomorrow. The toy company showed off 4 new items, all of them involving the Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, and all of them are part of the Lightning Collection line, and all of them are exclusive to GameStop. The first is the cel-shaded action figure, which is a new thing the team is doing. Available August 1st for $24.99 and offers the Pink Ranger with the translucent pink bow and arrow. Let's see what else is there. Then there is some more stuff. A pink helmet for $79.99, available August 1st. And what is that? A belt?
Yeah, her power belt and her power coins.
Okay.
Yeah, and her morpher, I guess. Well, yeah.
Right. And it's a pack of figures. Yeah. So, folks, check this out. There's some brand new Pink Ranger merch for you to get your hands on.
It continues to be morphin' time. Masters of the Universe Origins Eternian Royal Guard exclusive figures pre-orders are live. Fresh out the debut of the trailer from Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe Revelations Netflix series, which features none other than Mark Hamill voicing Skeletor, if you didn't know that already, Mattel has added the Eternian Royal Guard figure to their Masters of the Universe Origins lineup. It features a Man-at-Arms figure with a clean-shaven head sculpt and armor pieces that can be added to transform it to a Palace Guard figure. In addition to armor pieces, the figures include a club, axe, and shield. And you can see it in the video if you're watching the video. Excuse me. Masters of the Universe Origins Eternian Royal Guard figure is available to pre-order from Entertainment Earth for $17 and release date in September 2021. Wait. Oh, never mind. Yeah. Keep going. Next
up, Jackson Hyde, known to fans of Teen Titans and the animated Young Justice show as Aqualad, is going to will apparently graduate to the mantle of Aquaman this fall as he gets his own series titled Aquaman: The Becoming this September, written by Brandon Thomas with art from Diego Olortegui, Wade Von Grawbadger, and Adriano Lucas. Aquaman: The Becoming will mark Jackson Hyde's first solo title, albeit a 6-issue series. It's unclear how Hyde will graduate into the mantle of Aquaman and if he will replace the original Aquaman, Arthur Curry. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Like we hadn't seen Jackson since he was running with the Teen Titans like a couple of years ago.
I don't remember. It's an interesting way to bring the character back.
Yeah. And I don't think he showed up in Future State. So, regardless, Slade Wilson recruited to take down DC's quote-unquote heavy hitter villains in Deathstroke Inc. The recent Flash duo of writer Joshua Williamson and artist Howard Porter are reuniting for a new DC series, Deathstroke Inc. quote unquote, after suffering too many losses, Slade decided it's time for a change, reads the description of Deathstroke Inc. #1 on the publisher's subscription page. When he's enlisted to work with an ages-old secret organization called Trust, who want to take down the heavy hitter villains. He's all in. As this article says, the name Trust doesn't ring any bells for them in reference to any DC secret organizations, but Deathstroke has had more trust issues than most anyone at DC, given his relationship to the Teen Titans and but it goes on from there. So, let's see, it goes on sale September 28th. Next up,
Fables is back with a Batman crossover and the return of the ongoing series. 6 years after the end of Vertigo's seminal fairy tale series Fables by writer Bill Willingham, both Fables and its creator are back in an upcoming new DC crossover title, along with the return of the ongoing series, picking up right where it left off next year. First up is the September debuting Batman vs. Bigby, a Wolf in Gotham 6-issue series featuring the fan favorite Fables character crossing over into the DCU. The DC Black Label series is written by Willingham and with pencils by comic book tattoo artist Brian Level, inks by Jay Leaston, and colors by Lee Luffridge. Okay, that's cool. And I got to open the article to see what happens to the return of the ongoing. Because I have friends that were big into Fables because they weren't really into, like some of the mainstream superhero stuff.
Right. I know somebody who's stoked to hear this when I shout out to my friend Kat.
All right. Fables will then return on its own merits in May of 2022, just in time for its 20th anniversary, when the series picks up with Fables number 151, an interesting decision in this era of frequent relaunches and new number ones. The return begins with a 12-issue story arc, quote, The Black Forest, which picks up where the series originally ended, but what DC also calls a perfect jumping on point for new readers. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have never read Fables. I have a couple of volumes and I plan on it because also they did a video game, Wolf Among Us. Yeah, I want to make sure that's right and not think about Injustice. Yeah, I think that's right. That is kind of based off of it, and Bigby, the character of Bigby, and from Telltale. So yeah, I kind of want to check out Fables because the premise seemed kind of cool. So glad it is back for fans of that series. Like I said, we both know someone who's some folks that'll probably be stoked about this when they hear about it, or I know somebody who definitely was stoked when I told them about it. So, but anyway, Action Comics celebrates Superman Day with the cover art reveal. So Action Comics celebrates Superman Day on June 12th by sharing new cover art. Illustrator Daniel Sampier posted an image on his Twitter account that depicts what appears to be Superman's son sitting on a porch and being consoled by Lois Lane Kent, with a newspaper sitting at their feet. Meanwhile, a reflection in the mirror of in the window of the door behind them showing Superman flying high in the sky. And if you are watching the video once again, you can see said image and said tweet. So cool. Next up,
a new Superman manga features the hero dealing with a more down-to-earth struggle where to get lunch. Kodansha, the Japanese publisher best known for manga such as Attack on Titan and the quintessential quintuplets, revealed that, say that fast 5 times, revealed that its new Man of Steel story, Superman vs. Meshi, will begin serialization in its evening magazine starting June 22nd. Superman will also grace the cover of the next issue of the magazine with a new full-color illustration. Interesting.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, someone just said that in the chat. Like Superman manga might be interesting. Yeah, I might actually want to check that out. And Kodenshaw, if you're listening, how about put our reader die back out? Thank you, please, and thank you. But wait, does this say when? It says let's see, June 22nd is when this will start the serialization in its evening magazine. So actually, shit, that's next week.
Right. Currently, neither Kodansha or DC have made any announcements regarding an English release of Superman versus Menshi. Menshi is apparently the Japanese word for meal.
Right. So, heat up those VPNs, I guess. Yes, Office Nike. The Deadpool manga, I believe, are already out or coming out. So yes, I think we talked about that like months, or probably about a month or two ago. But yeah, that is definitely a thing that is available or will be available to you. Next up though, let's see. Former DC editor Jamie S. Rich joins Tapas as editor in chief. So, Hollywood Reporter broke the news. However, rumors had been circulating about this ever since it was revealed that Rich was leaving DC. The hire completes a troika of moves of former DC execs to the mobile webcomic platform. Michelle Wells, the CCO, and Alex R. Carr was just hired as senior director of public relations. As was mentioned when Carr was hired, Tapas was recently acquired by Korean tech company Kakao for about $500 million. Kakao seems ready to spend even more money hiring the kind of editorial staff that brings in new IP and develops even more existing relationships. Currently, the Tapas audience skew heavily towards teen and young adults who read content on their phones, aka not in the U.S. Let's see. Rich, Carr, and Wells are all experienced in producing material for young adult readers, and all have contracts in traditional comics to expand new directions. DC Comics is repetitive and all right. Yeah, sure. But yeah, that's that. Huh?
I said okay.
Yeah. And that's yeah, so the office techie in the chat said that. But yeah, moving right along.
All right, next up, help. I need somebody
I know, right?
help. The Hero Initiative anthology launches Kickstarter. Omar Spahi and Hannah Mean Shannon spearhead a Kickstarter campaign for Help, a new graphic novel anthology benefiting the Hero Initiative. It's a new graphic novel featuring a collection of one-page stories from a lineup of creators, including Kieran Gillen, Dennis Calero, Tim Seeley, Magdalene Visaggio, Sina Grace, Tony Fleeks, and more. The Kickstarter launched on June 15th. All proceeds from the graphic novel sales will go towards the Hero Initiative's mission of aiding comic professionals in medical or financial need, something that has taken on a whole new meaning in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. This effort marks the Hero Initiative's first involvement in a Kickstarter campaign. The comics submitted to the anthology are described as open-hearted stories that examine what it means to help and how we experience aid and value it in comics. Okay.
Yeah, the one that they have, for example, on the articles page is this young lady helping this old lady seemingly climb up a hill, but apparently it's them them walking up the stairs to the old lady's apartment with her groceries with a mask on. So that was kind of amusing.
Yep. And as always with Kickstarters, there are tiers. So if you pledge a smaller amount, you get one thing. But if you go up the tiers, you can get cooler versions. From digital to soft cover print to hardcover copy, and then additional tiers which offer original artwork from select creators as rewards. So take a look at those tiers and give what you can.
Yeah, and it's for a good cause. The Hero Initiative is definitely a great cause. So, last but not least, Anime Expo List 2021 presents hybrid programming and panels. So, Anime Expo Light 2021 presents special programming and panels hosted by Cybrid. I have no idea who it is. As a part of this year's 2-day live stream convention running Saturday, July the 3rd through Sunday, July the 4th, which we've already heard of a couple of announcements that that they'll have there. Cybrid, publisher of the popular Otome, is it Otome or Otame? I can't remember. But regardless, romance simulation Ikemen series. I apologize if I'm butchering these names, but joins Anime Expo Light 2021 to present Cybrid TV with producer Hiroto Kurimasa and special guest voice actor Yuki Ono. Join them for a special announcement and the latest news about the upcoming Cybrid releases. And after that, there is a schedule of events, or a couple of events, I should say, from said event. And there you go, folks. That is the last bit of news, and we have come to the end of another Comic Book Chronicles. But first, can we get one more ad read?
It's been a long night, folks. You know what we read when it's getting late. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, computer parts, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of another exciting episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out, whether it's live during the recording, or later in the audio, or watching this later, whichever way you plan on watching this. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70, you see right there. You can find him on Twitter at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all his umbrella sites they're in. But you got and you can also probably still find him under that Vine replacement, whose name I just escaped me, under Comic Reviews No Fouls. Byte, BYT.
Byte.
Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter. The Osiris that is ish. You can also find him at CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter, which is the KLIQNATION. If you look above me, it's also, that's kind of how, there you go, it's right there. The Click Nation on Twitter. But you can also find him at Comic Book Resources. That's CBR.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Definitely go check my man's out. And by the way, it is which I kind of hate giving him his number, his government, but that's kind of how they don't go by handles on CBR. So it's Tim Adams. Definitely go check out his work, because he's doing a lot of good stuff over there. And I'm not just saying that because we know him and you know, and he's the founder of this ish, but he's actually doing some good stuff over there. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And again, like I said, you can find us every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on where we record live, either on both rather, because we're doing this simultaneously, on youtube.com/theclicknation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. But yeah, you know, smash that like button and all that kind of good jazz. And with that, folks, we'll be back next week with another show and another recap of Loki and some more comic book goodness. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
My time is up. Peace out to Brooklyn.